special meeting. It's our workshop. If I can have a roll call, please.
Ms. Leguizamo, Ms. McBride, Mr. McBride, I'm sorry.
Here.
Ms. Callahan Wozniak,
Here.
Ms. Hannah, Mr. Riddle,
Here.
Ms. Gonzalez,
Here.
President Ewing.
Here. So we do have all board members present with the exception of Ms. Hannah and Ms. Leguizamo. Ms. Leguizamo did notify me that she would be running late, and Ms. Hannah just notified the superintendent that she would not be attending this evening. So we're going to move on to our public comment portion of the meeting. Are there any community members, members of the public who would like to address the board at this time? Seeing as there are none, we will continue with our agenda. We have our workshop with Mr. Rick Harris of R.J. Harris and Associates. Thank you. So we have Mr. Harris here. So this is a continuation. The board did, in our contract with Mr. Harris, include board kind of self-governance and development, right, as we want to work together as a team. And so this is a continuation of that. And so we've worked with Mr. Harris in the past, and we welcome him here to Waukegan Public Schools again. Mr. Harris, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Ewing, and good afternoon still to everyone. As President Ewing said, the workshop that we're going to cover today is not the material we're going to cover. It's around etiquette and civility as a board, and more importantly, getting us to operate more effectively and efficiently as a team. So, and under the construct of teamwork holistically, not because anybody has done anything wrong, not because you are not good as a team right now, but I believe that we're all interested in moving from good to great. So hopefully what we share today by way of this interaction and engagement will help us all get to that place that we desire to be. Let us cover our agenda real briefly. We're going to first go over board responsibilities. Many of you know what those responsibilities are. It would be great for us to just have a review of those. Again, get into team development, civility, talk somewhat, we mentioned emotional intelligence in one of our workshops at a 30,000 foot view. We're going to dive a little deeper into that. We're going to go into our personal assessment as it relates to DISC, our DISC style, how we interact with one another. We'll find that an interesting engagement, hopefully. And then effective communications, and then we'll close out with an action plan. Anyone has any comments or thoughts relative to the agenda? Mr. McBride, that's okay with you? All right, sir. All right, board responsibilities. Let us look at these 6 points or areas of focus from the Illinois Association of School Boards. These are foundational principles around effective governance, not just governance, but effective governance. One, says the board clarifies the district purpose. 2, the board connects with the community. The board employs one employee, and that is the superintendent. The board, although it has all authority, it delegates that authority to staff and so forth within the district. The board monitors performance. And 6, and really, really key, they're all important, but the board takes responsibility for itself. Let's unpack that. And I sent this out as a pre-read. I think the district did send this out as a pre-read. So we won't go over it chapter and verse, but we extrapolated some excerpts from this so that we can actually just poke at this a bit and sort of remind ourselves what our roles are. As a primary task, the board defines, articulates, and redefines the goals. It says the ends, but the goals of the district. And answering the reoccurring question, who gets what and for how much? Our main focus should be on student learning and organizational effectiveness. Do we all agree with that, or if someone has anything they would like to add to that? Amen. We'll move forward. As we dig deeper into it, I wanted to really unpack the notion that the board takes responsibility for itself. And let's start with the first one. It's collectively and individually it takes responsibility for all board activities, and it chooses the work that it will do versus that in which it delegates. The board deliberations are focused on board work and not staff work. Now, with some of the boards that I work with, that second piece, this one here, there seems to be a blurring of the lines there. And that is that oftentimes we find that school boards are working on work that we've hired staff to do, instead of working on the high level, the big rocks, the guidance, and so on and so forth. You find that sometimes caught up within boards that we're focused on staff work, and again, getting out of our lane. And if we're not focused on the big things that the board is supposed to be focused on, and we're focused on staff work, then a lot of times those big things go unaddressed. So that's a challenge, that's a watch out, not only for this board, but I would give that advice to any board. The third point here is that you're obligated to express your opinions, but respect the opinions of others. Right here, what we have underlined there, it says ultimately speaking with one clear voice. Again, with all of the boards that I deal with, that's a challenge, and I'm going to give you an example. There's 5 of you here. If you voted on something today, say 4 voted for, you voted against. When we walk out of the room, first of all, if you voted against, you should unpack why you are against whatever the issue that was on the table was. Hello, Lucy. You should unpack whatever your thoughts are, and the rest of the members should respect that and give you that piece. But when we walk out of here as a team, since the majority of the members voted for whatever it is we were voting on, then what you should not do is then go out to the public and say, well, I wasn't in agreement with that. I voted against that. Everyone else voted for it. We were at odds. You should have all of that deliberation right here. The conversation should take place right here. This should be a safe space for you to speak. And when we walk out of here, we're speaking as one voice. One board, one voice. Instead of splintering out on issues in the community. And that happens that happens not only with this board, it happens with a lot of boards. And we have workshops such as this, hopefully, to get us on the same page and get us in the same cadence. Any thoughts or questions around that? Yes, sir, Mr.
I think it's a lot like a family. You have a mother and father. They have to basically they can debate issues, how we're going to discipline our kids or whatever, or if the kids are going to be able to stay up late and watch this movie. But once they make their decision, then they've got to present a
united
front to the kids, or they're going to play each other, and the same thing's going to happen on the board.
You're absolutely correct. I couldn't have said, Michael, matter of fact, let's take that piece out.
I already made the.
The way you unpacked it is exactly the way it happens in the community. And guess what?
Now,
Sometimes,
now how do you deal with things that's not right?
well, I would hope that the question was, how do you deal with things that's not right? We have to make sure first that that's just not our personal opinion that it's not right. If it's illegal, you're not going to be voting yes on something that's illegal in this room. It's not going to happen. If it's unethical, I don't believe you're going to be voting on something that's unethical here. So we may feel, and that's a great question, I may feel that it's not right because I don't agree with it. For whatever reason it is, I don't agree with it. But if it's not illegal, immoral, or unethical, then the whole concept of it not being right, I don't think it's legitimate.
Well, let me add on to that. Let's say a board member voted on something that's not right, and then come later on down the line, the community sees it and recognizes it's not right. It's as plain as day it's not right. If the board member is just supposed to say, okay, I voted with that, that's it.
I think the board, again, in a democracy, according to Illinois Association of School Boards and any board etiquette, once you walk out of here, if you're the majority, if you're the minority vote, then you should have one voice, one clear voice to the community. It shouldn't be, I'm a martyr, I'm standing up for what I believe was right. I don't believe all my peers and colleagues were wrong. I had it right, and I want the community to know that I had it right. Because how that lands on the community How that really lands is that you're dysfunctional.
But it's okay to say you were wrong too, isn't it?
No, if you, Mr. McBride, what I'm saying here, if you don't agree with something and you don't believe in your heart it's right, again, that's just a personal opinion because you're not, no one here is going to table something that's unethical or illegal. Okay, but if you don't agree with it, or I don't agree with it, my thought is this is the place where we deliberate. We have our whatever comments we want to make, we should make those comments, and you know what? All of your colleagues should make you feel very comfortable to unpack all of the reasons you disagree with the vote that's on the table.
Now, that's a different story if all your colleagues made you feel it.
Well, that's why we're here today.
Okay.
That's it. And thank you for those comments. But that's why we're here today. Because sometimes colleagues it won't be a safe place. It won't be a safe space. That's why we're talking about this. But I appreciate you even feeling comfortable enough, which I know you well enough that you'll find comfort in saying what you need to say. But your comments are spot on. But this needs to be a safe space and a safe place. Your colleagues need to make you feel very comfortable in saying what you agree with and what you disagree with. Now, let me also build on your initial question or initial comment / question. When that doesn't exist, when your colleagues don't make you feel comfortable in this environment, saying why you agree or disagree with something, then you're more apt to speak as a divided voice among the public and tell the public that you didn't agree with. You're more prone to do that. So if there's not a safe space here where you can dialogue, unpack, then usually people find that safe space out in the community. Again, not just with this board, but with any board. The fourth item here says that the board should serve the broader good, not just, I hear board members, well, my constituents, and that's what the board should serve the broader good, the district, the community, and not be overly, and the operative word is overly, influenced by special interests. How many of us have seen board members just compromised by special interests? And they don't have to be big political special interests. It could be my clique. It could be my little group of people. I call it trying to serve 2 or 3 masters. It's just not possible. But I oftentimes see boards here, not only corporate boards, but school boards. They've got so many masters outside the boardroom to everything, things that should be held confidential, things that should have been resolved here and discussed here. Oftentimes they're discussed other places, and your vote and your stance on issues is based upon how is my little group or clique going to think about how I voted for something. Okay? Comments on that at all?
Yeah. Again, I think it's our politicians, we can see it, certainly we can look at those people and say they often are kowtowing to the special interests.
Yes.
Instead of looking at the broader thing.
Yes.
And they're afraid of their vote when it comes up that the special interests aren't going to, and we know the damage that does to our country. The same thing can happen with the school board. If you play to your special interests, you're not looking at the broad picture of all of our kids.
Absolutely. And what it looks like to the community, the 100,000 people here in Waukegan, it sort of looks like instead of children, we're focused on adult issues. So I would ask you to pressure test your process and then go back over the past few board meetings that you've had and then just watch them on YouTube and see how much time you really spend, how much time is spent really dealing with sincere children's issues, or are we dealing with a bunch of adult fiefdoms, territories, arguments, interest groups, and things of that nature. But go back and watch your own film sometime, and I think you may find that somewhat enlightening, and that's advice I would give to any board or any team. And then Jeff sort of touched on this bottom one, which is key. You must have a positive and inviting environment to have those open conversations. No one wants to be on a team or on a board where when we say everybody's opinion is welcome, and we're going to respect everyone and treat everyone with dignity. And the moment I say something that you don't agree with, we're bumping heads, or we're arguing, or we're fighting, or we're not speaking to each other for the next 3 months or 3 years, whatever it takes. But we'll get to that. But in order for all these other things to take place, again, you got to have a positive and inviting board culture. We're talking about teams, and let's just sort of dive into this. When anybody, there's no right or wrong. When you think of teamwork, what do you think of? Someone talk to me about what teamwork means to them.
Collaboration comes to mind.
Collaboration, absolutely.
A shared mission.
Shared mission, love that. Anyone else?
Different roles and responsibilities.
Different roles and responsibilities. Absolutely. All of you are correct. We're looking at shared goals, collaboration, a friendly and cooperative climate, and know your role. And then we talked about being able to sacrifice for the team, to put my selfish thinking, my personal thinking aside, and going with the broader good of the team or the board. That's what we would think about when we think about the concept of teamwork. And this last piece here, we'll get to this in the next slide. This one is always a little difficult. Sometimes we think we are jack of all trades and master of none, and we get out of our lane or what our role is. And I want to try to tell Lucy what she ought to be thinking, how she ought to be operating, and I probably need to kind of keep my own house in order and understand what my lane and my thought might be. And again, nobody's greater than the collective team. 7 or 8 heads or minds are certainly better than one. Let's look at the stages of team development, and this works for any team, whether it's in your household or in your company or here as a board. We're looking at the forming, storming, norming, performing, and the journey concept here by way of stages. And we don't have to go through them at length, but forming, your team acquaints itself, ground rules, you're just getting to know who people are when you come together as a team. Storming, you start to communicate, but we're still feeling as, well, I'm Rick Harris. I'm not the board member. I'm Rick Harris. I'm coming with all of my degrees, all of my credentials, all of my stuff. I'm still that person at that stage. And they resist control by group leaders, and they can show hostility there. You get moved from storming, again, development. People at norming, we're starting to normalize, and people are starting to feel like part of a team, and really understanding at that point, it first clicks in your mind that, hey, if we work together and I value these viewpoints, we might actually get to a place. Okay, then we get to the performing piece. The key word here is open, team, open, and trust the atmosphere, and also flexibility. Here, hierarchy is not important. I might be part of this board of corporate vice president, this, that, and the other, well known in the community, and so on and so forth. Here, that's important. Here, it's not. There's no big I's, there's no big U's. We all have one vote. We're all treated as equals at the performing stage. Then a journey. How long are your roles? A tenure? 3, 4 years? Okay. A journey is one. Okay, that 3 or 4 year period is up. Okay, some of us will go away, new members will come in, we'll start back somewhere here. Make sense? Now here's the tough question. As a board right now, where do you think we're at? This isn't a hostile environment, it's a peaceful one, so.
We fluctuate between storming and norming.
Fluctuate between storming and norming. Let me see a show of hands that kind of agree with that. Not just because the president said it, but. Okay, we got a couple of hands, and mine were halfway up with yours, so you got 1.5 on with you. Anybody else? Where would you say we're at? Adriana, you the newest board member?
Yeah.
Okay, and you finished eating too, so I'm not gonna talk to you with your mouth full and a mask, and you, where would you say we were at?
Forming and storming.
Forming, you said, now which one?
Forming.
Forming and storming, okay,
Mhm.
okay. Anybody else? Lucy, I see you looking, you want us to put another category up there, or you going to
You know me, I'm always thinking out the box.
I know, I see you writing and looking around, that's why I called on you.
No, you know what, I want to say I do agree with the storming and norming. I'd really like for us to be more between norming and performing at occasions. I can see us when we are there, but not all the time. So that's why I was stumbling between those areas. So, but predominantly, I say we are within storming and norming.
Okay. Okay. I would say before I came in here and I was looking at this closely, and I would say between storming and norming. That's where I would place you guys as a board. Now let me say, is that good? I mean, it's not good, bad, or different. It's just kind of where we are. I mean, we are where we are. But are there thoughts around? Do you think that we should be at performing by now, or no? We're at the right place at the right time, because again, this is a continuum. It's about development, right? We're just all going to get better, hopefully, over time.
So no, I mean, outside of Ms. Gonzalez, and anytime, and IASB will tell us, anytime we have one new member, you have a new board, right?
Yes.
But for the majority of us, we have been serving together for 2+ years at this time. And so why we're not at performing and why we cannot consistently stay at performing relates to open and trusting atmosphere, right? If I don't trust you, if I'm always suspicious, if I'm always assuming ill intent,
Yes.
it makes it very, very hard for us to be a highly functioning, performing team.
Did you see this deck before you came here, or you?
No.
You're absolutely correct. I would have placed you between, again, storming and norming. In order to get to performing, it's the things you talked about, and that is why I touched on open, trusting, and flexibility. Okay? And that flexibility, Mr. McBride, that would be key. And again, you guys all voted for something. I didn't think it was right for various and sundry reasons, but then can I flex my style? Can I flex my mind and opinion to say that, you know what, I'm going to fall on the sword with this. Maybe all 5 or 6 of them are seeing something that I don't see. Okay, but I'm going to flex where I'm at to align with my colleagues. Right?
So how do you get out of the storming stage? How do you development with it from?
Well, hopefully at the end of this workshop, you'll feel like you're more empowered there. But it does no. But that's a great question. It's going to take trust. It's going to take us to have one agenda. We're going to have to get rid of all of the other fiefdoms and interest groups outside. We're going to have to value confidentiality. We're going to have to respect people's opinion, treat each other with dignity. It's going to take those things. And those things sound simple on their face, but on the battlefield, they become mountains, right? But that's what it's going to take. Understanding what our role is. Really understanding what our role is. Like Bill Belichick would say, first do your job. But know what our role is. And stay focused on that and put children in front of us and make it about children's issues and not ours. Mr. Riddle.
Mr. Harris, I didn't respond on this because I see us sometimes as this storming and norming, and I guess that's probably where we belong, but it seems to me that we're not, is there a trust factor with the administration too? I think that's, how would that fit in here? Because I'm thinking that too often we're questioning and attacking individually, the administration, it seems to me, and what they're doing. It's
Mhm.
like, we want to find out what's going on, how it's, even though they're communicating with us, it seems like we want more and more and more from them.
Right, and it almost seems like an adversarial relationship.
Right.
When as a board, you should be there to inspire them, to build them, to coach them, to lead them, all of those things. As a board member, and I sit on a few of them, I'm not, outside of the CEO, right, or the chancellor at the university, those are the only employees that we deal with. So staff issues, I'm really not that concerned with, because I'm hoping all of those people we're paying that money to manage staff, that they're doing that. Our only thing that, as a board member and as a part of a collective team, inspire, build, coach, guide, give direction, air cover, all of that we should give to the staff.
So it seems to me I'd like to know what the other board members feel on this, because it seems to me we can't get to that performing until we accept that we need to get out of the weeds.
Yes.
And we need to keep focus on our goals.
Yes.
As a team. If the team was, if we thought we had to take that hill over there, but we've got people that are going to assist us to get over that hill, but we don't want their help. I don't know.
And that's their job. That's their job. That's
Yeah.
what the community, taxpayers are paying them to do that job. You have a superintendent that's there paying with oversight over that group. But we do. We want to get in the weeds and, let me see this presentation. You didn't do this right. You didn't do that. I mean, staff look like they're shaking in their boots when they come to give a presentation to the board. And lots of times we're telling them what's not there, what we need to see. That's not what the community needs to see. That sort of thing. And sometimes we berate the staff. And it should not, in a healthy environment, right? In a healthy environment, there's a couple of very healthy boards that I sit on. Those the staff members are clamoring to get in front of the board and present, because they see the board as a partner with them, as a person, as a group giving them oversight, as a group supporting them, and things of that nature. Now, I know sometimes what will happen is I have had times where staff members may call me directly. Yeah, I don't know if they've been disciplined or something by the administration. I want to bring this to your attention, and blah 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 blah. Invariably, what I would say is, I've heard the concern. I will look for trends as it relates to that, but I ask them, have you followed your chain of command? Have you talked to your supervisor? Have you gone one step above that if you need to? But what I am not trying to do is resolve that issue, because we're paying a ton of folks a lot of money to manage that, and no one in this room. You've got one employee, you've got to trust that administration to actually do that job. That's an example of the relationship between the staff and the board. Okay, because when that's breached, now you've got chaos. You've got chaos. If administration wants to go, someone within the district, and I'll use the district, someone within the district wants to usurp their supervisor, I'll just go to a board member. Now the supervisor is shaking in their boots as it relates to discipline or anything of that nature, because every time I put the clamps down on Michael, and he's slippery, every time I put the clamps down on him, he's going to go to a board member. He's going to go to a board member, and now there could be enmity between me as a supervisor within the district and that board member. But with each interaction like that, it erodes trust, it erodes teamwork, it erodes competence, it erodes all of those things that are going to move you from storming to norming to actually performing. Those are just examples. Again, staying in our lane, knowing what our role is, and then functioning at that role. Because strategically, you've got strategic things and you've got tactical things, and strategy is nothing but a series of tactical actions, right? But if no one's watching strategically, because to use your words, and you're correct, we're in the weeds with staff stuff, then strategically the district isn't moving forward. Right? Right, because you should be like it should be like an orchestra. You got all these different instruments out there, and you guys are out there directing like this. But the moment you put that wand or that stick down and go pick up a doggone instrument, then, you don't have music now, you have a bunch of clattering notes. Make sense? Love your comment. Anybody else? We also kind of broke all of these down so that you can understand, to the question you asked, how do we move from one place to another? And we're thinking these slides will help you. If you were in a forming stage, you said with each cycle, and the brother president, you summed that up, each time we get a new member, we've got a new board, right? Because we're trying to bring that person along. But again, get to know each other, spending time with each other so that it'll help you get through that storming stage. Define how you're going to work together. Again, guidelines, cadence, operating principles, and so forth, either one-on-one and then also as a board. And then set expectations. Okay? And then when you set clear expectations among yourselves, you have fewer misconceptions about how the team should work. That's the forming stage. Storming. Here, now as we start to come together, as I start getting out of my individualism and looking at myself as a team, in my mind, I've got to think I'm giving up some of my individualism. Again, I'm not this person who I thought I was individually. Now I'm sucked into just part of a broader team. So now I have to really look at team dynamics. That first one is really, really key. How many times have we've seen stuff early, just folks acting up or things outside of things, the antithesis of teamwork we've seen. But you know what? We said we're not going to say anything. We just let those things fester, thinking that they're going to get better. And they don't. But this is the storming stage. I mean, this is where if we're going to act out and raise sane, I almost said another word, this is the place that we need to do it, and not when we're up here and you got the general public or whatever. When you're deliberating over things, key things, personal issues, this, whatever, in this audience is where we need to take those things on. And then, again, agree on the resolution process. Clarify roles. We're going to talk about roles and processes quite a bit. If they're unclear, responsibilities are kind of out of whack, there's confusion, there's chaos, there's frustration. And then set team norms here. When they cross the boundaries, clarify that it's not acceptable. Just
Okay, so somebody's done something that's inappropriate and somebody calls them out on it and they still think they're accepted. They think what they did was fine, but it wasn't.
right.
What do you do then?
I think that's an excellent question, and everyone heard what she said. That someone does something that's really the antithesis of teamwork. And it's unacceptable by all means, and that one person calls them out, but the person still feels that they're correct. Then, as a team, in that example you gave, say you were the one calling out Michael's outburst or outbreak or whatever it was he did that was unacceptable. As a team, we know our operating norms because we would have set them. We know what civility looks like now, right? So then, as a team, then we should speak. We should join John and speak to Michael as it relates to, hey, what you did was not cool. It was not acceptable. It was not part of our run rules. It's outside of the boundaries that we set. It's the opposite of being civil as a team. So that Michael can't then isolate you to say, well, Shar, you just don't like me. Or you and I just don't get along. When everybody around the table feels the same way you do, but didn't have the organizational courage to say what you said.
But what if Michael still thinks he's right? Or whatever.
then you have to think.
Look, you're yelling at me, so let me.
Oh, please, understand.
I'm like, Michael's getting all of the blame. He hasn't said one word.
I defend myself. Like usual.
Oh my gosh.
Michael.
Same.
This is the point, like, this is setting the stage for what we're talking about throughout the rest of the conversation, which is how we communicate with each other, how we resolve those differences, and what tools we use as a team, not just Rick being the great communicator and he'll help us. It's what do we do as our first civility? What are the steps of communication? How do we then look at breaking down a conversation when it's difficult? And we can deliver, information that is not great. How do we do that so that we are civil at the same time, where we have an open forum, so that it's not Rick or Shar attacking Michael? We're saying, can you tell me more about that? Why do you feel this way about it? Let's get to the root cause, because Rick said in the beginning, this is about the kids. How do we get to that? Because you have great passion, Michael, but you're taking it personally. How do we go after that? So those are the tools that we want to use. So you're asking the right questions, and we want to give you some of that language to do that, and not just in this workshop. It's something to take with you and utilize and call back, so that you're not saying it's Rick's personality or Michael's personality. It's how we will interact with each other. So the rules of engagement, roles, responsibilities, and how we play together. And when we disagree, how do we disagree? Rick and I have a lot of conversations, and I'm guessing that it sways between 25% acceptance to negative acceptance, and then we get to a work like this. But we've worked with each other, it's coming up to 25 years, so we know a little bit about it, but we still have our disagreements, but we understand where those boundaries are and call each other out on them. So that's part of it.
And depending how egregious your issue is, or how egregious the thing was that you took issue with Michael, maybe there's formal action as a board. Maybe there's formal action that the board takes. I just know if I just acted out on a board and I did something egregious, or the other members just got tired of the way I was coming across, I would not be surprised if I would have to offer an apology. I would not be surprised if the board had not documented something with me, on and on and on. I mean, it's that serious of a situation when you're trying to work together, and it's key and important that you're working together as one. So you've got to have the fortitude and the organizational courage, the managerial courage to take that stand. But what you cannot do is say, well, that's Rick. He always goes off, he flies off the handle. You can't say that. That's the unacceptable thing. Or that's Rick. He's been on the board a while. Or that's Rick. He hasn't been on the board long. He'll get it. Or that's just his personality. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. I mean, think about it in terms of sports. Lucy, if I put it that way, then I think you'll really go with me. Okay. Think about it in terms of sports. We get in that huddle. Michael has thrown the ball to me 3 times and I've missed it. I'm going to the bench. And usually it's not the coach that's calling me. Usually the quarterback, some captains are signaling the coach and say, take him out. Yeah. Take him out. And really, as a team, focused on one thing, and that is to keep people safe, keep the players safe, and to win. Then we're coming together as a team to be honest with you. And the college sports that I played, usually the coach didn't have to even make that decision. We're like, you go send us somebody else. Or let us reprimand you collectively. I'm not going to let one person do it. We're going to reprimand you collectively. Again, you guys have a huge responsibility in front of you, the education of our children. And I think oftentimes as taxpayers, what we hear is everybody said that they're concerned about children. But again, watch the tape. Because there are adult thiefdom issues that we're fighting. Corporations would never exist if their board, they would never make a dime if that's what their boards were doing. Because it's a singular focus. And that is shareholder return on investment. That is it. And if someone around the table isn't thinking in those terms, then no, we're gonna all be on you. Because we need those shareholders invested, we need them engaged, we need them putting their money with us so that we can expand and R&D, the whole 9 yards. So it's different, but it's not. Did that help at all?
Sure.
But it's going to take teamwork, and it's going to take you. The president can't sit there and let you, something that's obviously wrong. He can't sit there and let you speak up in that issue, in that incident, and then he not say anything. Or you not say anything. Or I want to keep a good relationship with Michael, so I'm not going to say something. No, if the kids are the most important thing, and teamwork is what it's going to take to get there, we've got to work together and have the fortitude to do that. We have to set what our norms, our cadence, our operating procedures and principles are going to be. And we got to stick to them. It's not a bad thing. I mean, there's going to be conflict, and we're going to get to that. But it's okay. It's okay to have healthy conflict. Unhealthy conflict is something altogether different. Yes, ma'am.
Something I'm taking away from this or learned tonight, because I spent a lot of time developing my team on organizational effectiveness and just that whole chart that you showed about what teams are. But I think a great point is this organizational courage.
Yes.
Like, it's actually really the first time I've heard that named, called out like that. I think in order to have organizational effectiveness, you need to have organizational courage.
You have to
Even
have
just from my team, like that, I'm going to go back and develop my team on that now.
You have to have that. You can't say that I want to be a senior leader. I want to be a board member. I want to be an administrator, and then you want to put your tail between your legs every time there's an issue. You want to hide behind the superintendent or someone else every time there's an issue. No, you've got to have the organizational courage to say this is what we're here for.
If we make a vote, we gotta say, that's our vote, that's what we decided.
Absolutely.
And you gotta back it.
We got to back it. And really, we've got to get to the place where it doesn't happen that much on the boards that I'm on, especially across the street, the hospital, et cetera. But if we're splintered and we can't show up as a united front, as a board, you should reprimand me. You should speak with me. You should help us get from that forming to the performing. That's why these previous slides talked about, getting to know each other, setting expectations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's all the groundwork, right? To get to this. Build accountability. Look, remove our bottlenecks, effectiveness, efficiency. We can't get there without organizational courage. And we've got to have the culture here as a board and a culture within the district to get us there. And culture, we're going to define culture as just how it feels, right, to work in an environment. I mean, there's all kinds of long, fancy, philosophical definitions for culture, but when you get right down to it, culture just simply means how does it feel to work within District 60? How does it feel, right, to be a board member here on this board? And and there may be some cultural changes that need to be made. Okay? But again, trust, cooperation, flexibility, all of those things are the springboard, right, to get you to perform. And this is an interesting slide. I mean, when you're at the performing stage, you want to be challenged. The administration want to be challenged because it's a safe environment for them. The board is there to give them air cover, to give them direction, to say, that a girl, that a boy, those sorts of things. Achievable but challenging targets. We spent quite a bit of time talking about goal setting, performance management, and those things about a month or so ago, and you see we didn't just pull that out of a hat. There is some science behind it. So here we are again, it's rearing its head. And then look at the second goal. This goes for the administration from the superintendent's perspective, but from your perspective with your only employee, we're talking about, celebrating success, looking for ways to reward or recognize people for achievement. If you have a significant milestone, celebrate it. We talked about that in our last meeting. Blue Ribbon Schools, things that hasn't happened in the history of this city. You still should be ringing cowbells, letting people know about how important that is as a district.
Celebration Wednesday.
I'll be there. No, this is just, and then keep the motivation levels up. You know, if I'm on a board, I'm not on there for. I would not join a board for an entity that I did not believe in and that I was not rooting for. Right? If I want it to succeed because I succeed when it succeeds. How do we get there? How do we get there? And how are we rewarding people? How are we celebrating things instead of, being, just divided on that or, oh, well, I didn't have anything to do with that, et cetera, et cetera. But get to the place, you'll know when you're getting to the place where you should be. When you have administrators and so forth, look forward to taking that podium and say, let me give my board an update. Without feeling that they're going to get berated or there's already a coup or the board is split on this or stakeholders outside are feeling a different way. And so I've got to, as a board member, I've been talking to my stakeholders on the outside, so I can't really speak too positive on this issue here. I told them I didn't agree with this, so now I got to shoot this person down. Or I got to lift this person up because they're a stakeholder and part of my fiefdom on the outside. And we start acting like politicians, right? Rather than colleagues and board members. We start acting like politicians. And the community sees that. All of that, I guess, contributes or takes away from your effectiveness and the perception that the community administration may have. Civility. In order to get to build on what you said, John, in order to get to that place, and we'll take a break here in a little bit, take a 5 or 10 minute break. How does civility strike you by way of definition? When you think of the word civility, what does that mean to you? There's no right or wrong.
I think of more like respecting one another.
Yes, respecting one another. Absolutely.
You may not agree with them, but you're still friends with them.
Absolutely.
I don't agree, the city of Waukegan and the casino thing. I don't agree with the casino, but it's where we're going and it's going to happen. And
so you can disagree without being disagreeable.
Right.
Yes. Absolutely. That's a good example, too, about the whole casino.
Well, it's like our building, that we bought. We're in it now. It's like we can't just let it sit anymore. We have to move forward with this project.
Right. And you may or may not have agreed.
Even though the community doesn't agree with it, or part of the community, a loud portion of the community does not agree with that building being purchased, it's done. You need to make a plan.
Right. That's an excellent example. That part of the community may not agree with it, and some of you may not have voted for it, but obviously or evidently, the majority of you weren't here. The majority. See how I just.
But we have the building now, so I will have to vote on it.
Yes, the majority of you voted for it. The majority of the board, obviously, right?
Right.
Okay.
I thought the mayor today in her luncheon was civil with all the audience and the community by saying, as Char just mentioned, I wasn't for. It's on the record, I was not for a casino. But it's coming, and it's here, and enough people on the board wanted it. or, the councilman, and so it's coming. And she talked nicely about how it's gonna be there, and we're gonna deal with the issues that arise because of it. But I thought the way she spoke about it was civil. It's not like, I'm still campaigning against this, no. It's gonna be here, we're gonna deal with the issues that come with it, and it may work out for the community.
Well, if the majority of her aldermen, which it wouldn't be her say, it would be the aldermen representing their constituents.
Right.
If, out of those 9 wards, if 5 of them said we want it, then that's where we're at.
Right.
Assuming the governor and all of it, we can get all out of the legal things. But yeah, if 5 of the aldermen want it, then that's where we're at. So it would show a great deal of leadership for her to say exactly what she said and mean it. Hey, I may not have voted for it, but my colleagues did. We spoke as one unified board. This is the hand I've been dealt, and I'm going to play it very well.
Right.
Period.
I'd just like to add on a little bit to the civility in regards to respecting one another, right? Because there's another piece to that comes in on the back end, and it's really not when you respect one another, you're also not trying to attack, right, or make it worse for them, or make harsher barriers, or. I mean, we've already came to a respectable conclusion, right? Mm-hmm. And then, so we just need to step forward from that decision, that case, that scenario, and not try to continue to throw sticks in the road.
You're absolutely correct. I mean, it could be jeering, vulgar language, obscene language, gestures, body language. All of those things polarizing you that may speak to the lack of civility, and that may take place in a board or in a board room or a team environment. Again, that screams for civility.
So what if somebody is acting uncivil to you?
No, we're going to get to that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that.
Okay.
And you guys touched on just about all of those things here. Very simple. A work environment where colleagues are respectful, considerate, and with their interactions with one another. Where we're just civil. To your point, we can agree to disagree. I think the casino is a strong one, just like the video gaming and so on and so forth. I may be vehemently against it. But if all the aldermen up there are saying they want it, and hopefully they're speaking on behalf of their constituents or whatever, it's just where we're at. It's where we're at. Forget if I think gambling is wrong, obviously it's not illegal anymore. Someone might say it's unethical and immoral, but that's not illegal either. Okay? But I may think it's wrong. But if all those aldermen voted for, okay, fine with me. Yes, Frank.
Only thing I don't want to get missed, and I think this goes back to what Mr. McBride was alluding to, is boards change, ideas change, and there are some times when I legitimately think that something is wrong, right? And when I say wrong, I disagree with it. The vision, the goal, even.
What wrong is wrong, I don't want to interrupt you, but when you say wrong, I'm thinking from a compliance perspective, I'm thinking illegal.
I disagree with the goal.
Okay, so you disagree with it. It's not wrong, you just disagree with it.
I disagree with the goal.
Okay.
I don't think it's the right approach. In the board oath that we take, it talks about seeking ethical ways in order to overturn or combat that decision. What I mean by that is, if 5 aldermen agreed that they wanted a casino,
right,
what changes that? 5 aldermen who agree that they don't want a casino. And so to say that, I guess I don't want, or maybe if I need to understand, is that, hey, if I really disagree with it, doesn't mean going out and talking about them, doesn't mean I have to hate the people that I serve on the board with, but if there's a board elections, then there are people who share my opinion, wouldn't I want to encourage or have those other people who have those same ideas as me?
Well, you're acting like a politician and not a board member, but if I was a politician, yes, as a board member over kids, then I just don't know if all that I think that, I personally, now, this is me speaking, I personally think that's the problem with public education today. If I was over at City Hall, which they're applying to, I'm the Chief Diversity Officer for the City of Waukegan as well. Been here 5 years doing that. I expect that from them, but I think with school boards, when again, we say it's all about children. Now, when I'm talking about constituents, how do I
I'm not
overthrow
talking
it?
about this, and that's about children. So if my goal is to serve children, and this is why I know what Mr. McBride is saying, and I believe that the decision is being made that is not in the best interest of children, right? Not wrong, we can disagree. There are two different ideas in theory, more than that, but two main ideas of how to teach reading, right? That's not our job as a board, but again, neither is wrong, but there's a difference of opinion as far as what I believe and how I believe to best serve students. So I'm not saying,
Let me ask you a question before you go on. You're not being a team player though. If you have to leave out of here, if you have to leave out of here, we all vote on something, you disagree, that you think your way is better than the other board members, right? Maybe you and one other board member, but the majority rule one way, you're thinking another. If you've got to go out and then say, well, election is coming up, let me go to those people who voted for me and let me try to maneuver and turn and sway this or let them know where I was coming from, then you're serving 2 or 3 masters. This is not your team. It's as simple as that. I wish there was another way to split that baby one way.
I don't know, I believe there's also the formality in regards to disagreeing, right? There is the formal process of asking for a revote of that whole thing. But once again, that's going back to the ones that voted against or for whatever that was, and having those conversations about, are you willing to keep your vote or change your vote based off of
all here, Lucy, all here.
But the thing is that was there that argumentative conversation had?
That's
right,
and that's what we're talking about today.
Exactly.
A safe environment where you can have that conversation here, not go deep in the weeds. But I'm going to tell you, the problem with a lot of school boards today is I didn't get my way. I didn't get my way. So we're supposed to be a team. Now I'm going to go off to do just what you said. I'm going to rally all of my constituents, all of the people that's going to be voting for me and waiting for me to go represent them. And now I got to try to find a way to finagle, to sway, to overturn all of these people. When you're right, that conversation needs to be held. We started the workshop off this way, saying, whatever disagreement you have, unpack it here. This needs to be a safe place to do it. But if you don't sway the rest of your colleagues, when I walk out of the war room here and I run into one of my constituents, this is the way we voted. This is the way we voted, and this is why.
And I'm not disagreeing with that. When I say ethical means, that's what elections are. I would agree with you as I disagree with the way school boards are structured, but we are elected officials. We run for our office. And so if we don't do that, if we don't go out and try and encourage people who agree that they support the school district, who agree with even the goals that we set, we risk seeing that, like the flip side of that. So
what is the flip side of it? That you don't get reelected?
And different people come in with different visions and missions that may be...
But it's the flip side of it that you don't get reelected.
Correct.
Okay.
Not me as an individual.
No, but a person.
Yes.
Okay. So that's a policy. That would be I would say if I was on the board and that was a legitimate argument, I would say, well, that's a politician's view, not someone who's here to serve the community and the kids. I would look at that person and say, well, maybe an alderman or a mayor or something like that might be something more conducive. And I'm a human resources guy, so I can place people in occupations real good and real fast. But this school board wouldn't be the place.
I don't think that those things are always mutually exclusive. Is that a person who also understands the direction of the community and what it is that they want would be a bad school board member?
No, but then you'll get into it. There's 100,000 people in this city. So what one person sitting in this room knows what all of those people want? Okay, that's what I'm saying. Collectively though, you might stumble upon it. That's what I'm trying to say to you. Yes, sir.
Now, I was going to say, there's always issues, there's going to be issues that we're going to disagree on. And we can certainly go back and change those possibly somewhere down the road. But decisions are made.
Yes.
And we have to live with them for a while.
Yes.
You know, in life, that's the way. You know, a family decides to go to some place on vacation.
Yes.
And somebody wanted to go somewhere else. The whole family has to agree. Now, if it didn't work out, they went down to, Disney World, and the other wanted to go up to, Wisconsin Dells or something. At Disney World, turned out there were huge lines, and it was just awful. The person that didn't want to go can keep bringing that up, and it just makes it worse. But we have to live with that decision.
Yes.
You know, maybe next time we can do something else. The same thing, I mean, you're talking about the building that we bought, or if it's, the clothes thing, I was against that too. But if you keep resurfacing that, it stops you from focusing on where you're going, the movement forward. You know what I'm saying? You have to say goodbye to that decision. It was made, and you have to operate on it for a while and stop to trying to change it.
You're absolutely right. And in the workplace, the least effective person, whether it's the president down to the janitor, is the person that's afraid to be fired. In the political world, an elected official, the least effective person is the person that think I may not get reelected. That's the least effective person.
And I would rather not be elected fighting for my convictions. Right? So I would, and that's why I want to make sure that part's not
you're missing the point. I'm not saying don't fight for your conviction. You're one of 100,000 people. So let's not, what I am saying to you guys as board members, don't get such an inflated ego that think that I'm making that big of a difference. There's 100,000 voices. Okay, it's called servant leadership. Well, I'm not saying, well, I'm Rick Harris, the guy that's going to influence a whole bunch of people in this city, this, that, and the other. I'm going to humble myself and say, well, no, I'm here to serve those people. And so my opinion is just e pluribus unum. Out of many, it's one. Fight for your convictions, but this is the jury you're trying to convince right here. And if you fail in this room, then, like Mr. Riddle said, we're all going to Disneyland. The lines are long, we're going to stand there. We'll complain later, but we're all going to Disneyland. Yeah, that's what teamwork is about. I'm on the football field. We call it 22 trap. You think of 48 sweep is the way to go. Now, are you going to raise hell in a huddle with 10 other people? Or are you going to just say, let's try this 22 trap? If it does not work, at least we went there as a team. See, let's not call us, let's not use metaphors and so on, like teamwork and teams, if we really don't know the concept and the notion of teams. That's what we're here to talk about today. Everybody has constituents. You're no different than them. There's no big I's, there's no little U's here. She has as many constituents, and they feel just as strong about her as yours do to you. She wants to succeed in life just like you do. She wants to do the right thing just like you do.
And I guess that's civility to me. Civility to me is understanding and not assuming ill intent. So I first take the position that everybody on this board legitimately wants to better the lives of students. How we get to that point will differ because our individual experiences, understandings, and that's what we talk about and we debate. So I guess I want to be clear about what I'm saying because I don't think that it was completely understood.
You think I misunderstood, but we're making it real clear. Because I thought I understood exactly what you were saying, but we're going down a political realm.
And it's not, ethical means. So you seek to, is not throwing a fit. Civility is not, I guess unless I'm mistaken about what civility is. Like civility is not a work environment where colleagues are respectful and considerate in their interactions with one another. So me disagreeing with you, me disagreeing with the decision is not me being inconsiderate.
Brandon, let me stop you there. I heard you in my good ear very well. Where we veered off is when you started the political thing and said, well, I need to go out. It's not unethical for me to go out and talk to my constituents. Elections coming up. Let them know how I vote. You know, that to me is not teamwork. And I still say that's not teamwork. In this environment here, then this is the group to sway. So we can all go to, if you're talking about going to Wisconsin Dells instead of Disneyland and everybody else want to go to Disneyland, this is the place to get everybody up north. This is where your energy is spent. Not walking out of that door and trying to talk to those people who agree with me. And that's what you said. And so that's...
I guess there are things called elections. That will be an ethical way. And I'm not saying, if we got 2 years, I'm not talking about doing this tomorrow, but if I fundamentally disagree, I'm not a minority on this board, so I'm not even talking about me individually, but if I was somebody who really legitimately believed that we were going in the wrong direction, would it not be ethical for me during an election to try and get other people who shared my vision? A team, build our team. I mean, when you talk about winning and we use the analogy of a football team, people move pieces. People get and recruit other people to teams because
Brandon,
you're
getting. We can talk politics but we're going to get off of this. You're talking about political prowess, and again, we're getting away from kids. We're talking about how do we get this team from storming, right, to norming to performing. We're talking about how do we get this team here. How you get reelected is not my concern. I mean, we're talking about how do we get this team operating effectively. And I got some good news for you. I mean, I know a lot about politics. If you get this team operating effectively, you don't have to worry about an election.
100%.
Okay, you don't have to worry.
I was giving an example, and I was trying to get understanding, so I want to make clear because this is being recorded. Is that my goal is not to be reelected.
Exactly.
My goal. If I would have lost in April, I would have been perfectly okay with it.
Okay,
Probably would have had a few.
Let's rest.
So I'm good because I don't want that to be the perception.
Let's rest with that because I'm not going to
made based on politics, and that's part of what some people when we talk about what breaks down the trust. What breaks down the trust is that if I don't first believe fundamentally that Brandon is making decisions based on what's best for kids, but based on politics, then we can't already. That breaks down that we're not going to be effective.
You're saying the same thing I said, but when you said to me that if you fundamentally agree, ethically, you can go out and gather, elections come up, you can go out and gather those who are like-minded to help rally around your point of view. I'm saying to you that you're putting politics first and this group second. We can talk to 12 midnight and I'll say the same thing. Yes, ma'am. You had your hand up and then you and then Mr. McBride. Charlotte, did you have your hand up or would you just stretch? Would you just stretch it out?
I lost my train of thought.
Okay, well, I can see how. Adriana, go ahead.
I lost my train of thought.
Oh my God, Mr. Riddle, was you the third? No, Jeff was the head first. Don't tell me you lost your train of thought too. He lost his train of thought.
Well, I was gonna say that I think that what is the confusion is that, and I can understand where Brandon is coming from or the example that he's giving, because even though we're talking about civility, we're not even talking about the kids. We're talking about civility. We're addressing when people do not act civil, right? So
Right.
how can people who maybe do not act civil understand other avenues to civilly address what we're talking about? So the thing that I take away from this is that with civility, everyone has a place in our society, right? Civility is about citizenship. It's about feeling like you're part of a greater group. And I think that part of the reason why we don't get to the stage of having respectful and considering atmospheres is that we don't understand, and I would even say this about our community in general, we don't understand debating.
We don't understand.
We don't understand how to debate. So,
We got a slide on that too.
okay.
Go ahead.
Then I'll let you go towards it.
We've got a slide on that, and you're absolutely correct. And we find it hard to see other points of view. We find it hard to disagree without being disagreeable. We find it hard to disagree without me not speaking to you again. We usually come to the table, I come to the table, assuming that I know more than you without even understanding what your point of view is. On a board, we might say, well, I've got 20 years of experience. I would say to you, if it's been on this same board, you don't have 20 years of experience, you have the same experience 20 times. Now, you got to go home and think about that. You got to go home and think hard about what I just said. Hello, lights. So I hear that a lot.
This is my first time.
Right. But it's going to take diverse experiences that you bring to converge on something like this to be most effective. Okay, this isn't a union organization, whereas, okay, by virtue of my seniority, I know everything, or I'm in the top spot. No, I've got 20 years of experience. I used to hate hearing people say that on the job. You've been in the same job for 20 years, and you want to lecture somebody who's had 20 promotions and moved throughout the organization, been in different countries and everything, but you've got 20 years of experience. Not 20 years of experience, you've got the same experience 20 times. There's been little growth, little development, little expansion, all of those things. Something to think about.
Rick,
Yes.
I'm sitting here listening at you. I encourage you to mirror your own self with the experience that you had as you speak to us about different various issues. So that does mean something, because of the fact you have 20 years of experience in anything.
No. But I said, if you've been on a board, this is what I hear for board members, not just here, the boards that we do workshops for and that I'm on. I've been on the board 20 years. And again, that doesn't give, if I've been on this board 20 years, this isn't mirroring me, because I've been on no board 20 years. But if I've been on the board 20 years, you've been on there one, you just got here yesterday. My vote is no heavier than yours, no heavier than yours, no heavier than yours. And so by my many years of being on the board, right, that doesn't make my opinion any different than anyone else's. It doesn't have any more weight. And oftentimes, my point was, oftentimes, since I've been there so long, the thought might be is I've probably been there too long. I've got the same experience in this seat 20 years, not 20 years of broad and diverse experiences that I might bring here. So again, it's a wash, is the point I'm trying to make by way of experience.
The point I'm trying to make is, if I've been around long enough and seen the same thing over and over again, and I know it's working, and then when something comes that's not working, I think I should express my opinion and say, no, I know that's not right, because I've been down that road 1,000 times, and I know that's not going to work. And here I am trying to interject what will work, and I know it's working, it's been working before, but at the same time, I have my colleagues going against me. So therefore, it makes me rebellious, so to speak. Because in fact, I know it's wrong, and at the same time, you want me to vote for it, and we just go along with the flow. So as a result of that, I'm resistant and I don't do it. And so, and if that happens more than normal,
yes,
you get upset about it.
Well, you can, unless we understand
One person though now, one person get upset about it, but at the same time, that person has a right to get upset, but as you were speaking earlier, there's a way, as Sharper said, to confront that individual in a kind, generous way, and then maybe we can get something going. But right now, we just kind of let...
Here's the assumption, and I get what you're saying, and that's a reality not only on this board, but on many. What I'm trying to say is this person that has the 20 years of experience is that I've seen this movie before, I know how it ends. We tried this in a district 10 years ago and it didn't work. This new member might say the polar opposite. I've seen it where it has been successful. So now, who's right? The 20-year person who said they've seen it 10 years and it's not going to work? Or that person who said, hey, I've seen it in a similar situation and it did work and this is how we can do it. So they both have opinions on this thing. And again, this person has, I don't know if they have the right to get upset. As they do have the right to get upset as long as they can channel it through civility. I can be disappointed with something, but and I should be able to handle it with
That's
civility.
part I agree with you. They have a right to do it with civility.
Yes.
That's what's the missing piece right there.
That's the missing piece, and that's part and parcel why we're gathered here today. Because if that's missing, we just can't talk openly about anything. We just can't. We just can't get to a place of performing as a board or a district because we're scared. I don't want you to fuss at me. I don't want to get in an argument with you. Hell, I don't even want to be on the board. If I volunteer to be on the board, and I had no idea you guys dedicate this type of time as a school board. I had none. No idea. None. So let me salute you now. You spend more time than paid boards together. But if Mr. McBride, if I'm volunteering all of this time to be on a board, I don't want to have to drive up to that parking lot and say, I hope I don't get in an argument with Jeff McBride today. Or, boy, I don't feel like seeing Lucy. We got into it last month. For something I'm volunteering for, I would hope we all have something better to do with our time. But this is the stuff, the lack of civility is the stuff that makes people not, good people say, I'm not going to run for the school board. Or good people get off of the board. Because I'm not going to volunteer my time. Two things. I'm not going to pay you as an employee and fight you at the same time. One of them's got to, something's got to give.
That's literally torture.
And then I'm not going to volunteer my time in anything where I'm fighting like this. Unless I join the military.
Got it.
Thank you, sir. All right.
No, not a question, a kind of a statement. I would hope that after I've been on the board, that I leave the board in a better position than when I started.
Absolutely.
So if I've been on the board for 7 years, I'm hoping that there's less of an achievement gap. I'm hoping that there's the students are growing and achieving. And,
yes. Yes.
COVID put a whole dent in all of that.
Yes.
So who knows what's going on with.
Yeah, and the problem with, and I agree with everything you're saying,
Okay.
there needs some kind of legacy.
If I was on the board for 20 years, and we're still stuck in the same spot, I don't know, I couldn't,
You have a hard time wondering what your contribution really
Right.
was. And what legacy you actually leave. Right. Go ahead and say it. And that's where you ought to be. You ought to be thinking like that. You ought, any organization that I'm involved with, and I can say I've been there over 10 years, and it's just, it's not working, it's not good, then I might be part of the problem. Because if I've been part of it that long, then I would hope that I'm going to make things better, not just different, but better than they were. I want to leave them better than the way I found them.
Right. I was going to make a comment too. The same thing, that Charlotte says. We have a board in town, our park board. And I think for many of us, that would be a cool board to be on because everybody likes the park.
They got a lot of money.
They got a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of great things.
Yeah.
They have a tradition and a success. Our school board is different in that, Waukegan doesn't have such a good name.
Good success.
We have great success, but we have great success, that's just it. But because people look at, we don't always just look at the success. We always want to look at, our district and say, oh, they're not quite as good as, this other one.
Yes.
I guess I'm trying to figure out what a board, a good functioning board does. I mean, if we were building a new electric hybrid or electric car, and you needed a board, as you said, to build this car. We all know what a car is, but we're not quite sure how this old car with the gas engine is now going to be transitioning to a hybrid or an electric. What would be the function?
Your function should be, you should be advocates for the district.
For the people that are experts that are building the electronic.
Yes, and ambassadors.
The ambassador for the district, okay?
Yes, advocates and ambassadors. That's why I cringed at the thought of going out politically and doing anything else than that. Advocates and ambassadors. You believe in what you're signing up for,
Right.
and that is the education of children in this district. And then now you're that for the hospital. I'm a board member there. I'm an advocate for them. I'm an ambassador for them. But what I'm not going to do is go out and tell everybody everything that's going wrong, this, that, and the other. I'm not going to do that.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to talk up their cardiovascular unit, all the money that they're investing in single rooms. I'm going to talk about all of those things. Now, if there's an issue, an operational issue, believe me that in the board meeting, no one would be more vocal than I would be.
Right.
But when I walk out of there, again, unless they're doing something illegal, I don't agree on everything. I'm just going to walk out and say, hey, this is where we land. Ambassadors and advocates.
And the hospitals, I think, is a very good example.
Yes.
Because hospitals have got so many issues they're dealing
Yes.
with. You, as a board member on the hospital, can't possibly know all those experts.
No.
So you rely on the nurses and the doctors and the administrators to manage this hospital.
I'm not going to try to pay them and do their job too, and I haven't been to medical school, right? I don't. I mean, I got a good idea what they do after spending so many years at laboratories and stuff, but no, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. And even if I was, I'm a board member. That's their job. We're paying them to do that. Let me help set vision and strategy for the hospital. And so that our patients, anybody that crosses that threshold, will have a safe and productive and not enjoyable, but to the extent that it can be enjoyable. But a safe experience, and one that they don't regret. That's it. That's the sole purpose of me there with that board. The staff and who gets paid what and who get moved into the... No, just the CEO is my concern. And we're paying him to do all of the other stuff. And so as long as we can all remember that, and again, people say, oh, these kids, I'm fighting for these kids, I'm fighting for these... I hear that so much from school boards. I mean, and that's the future of our children is very key. It's very important. Is it more important than life and death across the street? It's not more important as life and death across the street, but it's important.
Yes.
So who?
I was just gonna say that and you said it, I think perfectly, was that if we're in closed session, we air out all the problems,
dirty laundry, you can have it hanging everywhere.
But when we enter in public spaces, as a board member, I don't want to be dismissing or I wouldn't even say attacking, but dismissing or undermining the contributions of my colleagues.
You're not a team then.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I think that that's something that, as much as we struggle with it, our community doesn't understand that either, because we have been so used to, at least on the political stage, to accept that kind of behavior.
Yes.
I'm thinking about Trump. I'm thinking about all these other figures. We have normalized that kind of behavior.
You're at the top point there, right there. You're right there. I mean, we just model uncivilized behavior, and it's become the norm. Now, these other two paragraphs were ripped right from the headlines from issue, right? Because we support and cherish the right to free speech and the individual rights to everyone to engage in local control of our schools. However, that must be done in a civil and constructive way. Not only because it's the right thing to do in our society, but it's the right example to set for our children. Now, we teach our kids that you're going to go in and respect authority, treat each other the way they want to be treated. Exactly. Don't do anything when your kid leave out town. Don't do anything that's going to embarrass me at school today. So we want our children to do these things, then here, as advocates for them, and big people, we act this way in front of our little people, our children. And then we get down here, threats and vitriol, everything from vaccinations to non-vaccinations, et cetera. But look at this other piece. Often based upon false information, creating a wholly unjustifiable disturbance to everyone's effort in the education community to promote safe, quality public education for students. This isn't just specific to Michigan, but we thought we'd tear the headlines out so that you can kind of see what it looks like. There's a call across the country, and again, you brought it up as it relates to politics, and our most recent president, again, a call for civility, a cry even, right? Why don't we should we take a 5-minute break or 10 minutes? How long should it be? 5 minutes?
Emotional break before emotional intelligence.
Yeah, right before this, before we have an emotional breakdown.
Do we have to get our boxing gloves out here?
Yeah, right.
Rick's ready to roll.
Oh, I got him in the car, I was okay.
Yeah, go get it.
Do we have to?
You giving us a time?
5 minutes?
5 minutes? Not enough?
Sure.
I don't know where the clock. 5 minutos.
No, don't get lost. I'm not lost. I'm right here. I know where I am.
Oh,
Yeah, like her phrase is like, you know,
I thought that,
Yeah.
oh, like, what if he get lost, like, go do something.
yeah.
But don't get lost.
Don't get lost. I need you here to go to deliver something pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
He took it literally.
I wasn't lost.
Because you exactly, I saw myself in the mirror.
Yeah.
But it's cute.
Yeah.
Those things, I've learned not to use my
Yeah.
slang sayings.
Yeah.
And it's funny because
Colloquial things.
my husband would tell me slangs in Spanish. He's like, you know what that is? I'm like, I'm like, no. Like, and some of the stuff, like, I can, you know, figure it out. But some of the stuff, I'm like, nah, I've never heard.
If you didn't grow up.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Ready, yes, sir?
I'm sorry, Lucy, are we ready?
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Emotional intelligence. How many of us have heard of emotional intelligence? Okay, a couple of us. Emotional intelligence that we have here in the supplement is the key to effective and meaningful relationships. Not just relationships, but effective and meaningful ones. What do we think of? For those of us who have heard of it, what does it mean? You had to define it in your own words. You can use somebody else's if you have those, but
Like that term, I guess empathy.
Well, empathy, okay. Let's go with that. Ability to recognize and understand your emotions and the emotions of others, right? To Brandon's point around empathy, it takes empathy to be able to do that. And then the ability to use that, you know, so to see that, to recognize your emotions and others, and then to use that to manage your behavior and your relationships in a productive manner. Okay? It's a mouthful, but that's what emotional intelligence is.
Self-regulation.
It is that. Self-observation and self-regulation. And here we've looked at people, and especially in education, we've always said, and even in the corporate world, we'll say, how did that guy get promoted? He's not the smartest guy. Or how did that guy get elected? You know, out of all of these, a plethora of candidates. And then this guy, which people might say, this idiot or this less than got elected. We tend to look at people's IQ, or he has a bachelor's degree, he has a master's degree, she has a doctorate's degree. And again, IQ is an indicator of intellectual capacity, right? Around things like linguistics and logic and mathematical abilities. That's our IQ. And that's, fortunately or unfortunately, how we measure someone's ability or probability of being successful in any realm or endeavor that they're involved in. And you see IQ there relatively fixed. It's difficult, right, to increase your IQ. At some point, your IQ is basically fixed. You know, some people may tell us differently, but no. And it impacts technical skills, relies on cognitive ability. But now EQ, it's emotional quotient out of emotional intelligence. It measures an individual's attributes and ability to know and to use emotion. Okay? And the key thing here is it's not fixed. It's something you can work on your EQ and double your impact as it relates to whatever that EQ is. Yes?
This is totally reminding me of Sheldon on Big Bang Theory. He's got the IQ, but he's not got the EQ.
Bingo!
And he's trying to learn,
Bingo.
trying to understand.
Bingo! Bingo!
Meet people, I don't understand.
And see, this is why, you know, when we put everything here, again, the person may have a ton of book sense, all these degrees, I should be in the top job, I should be around the table, and then you find that somebody here who knows how to use all of these things are around the table, they're in the top job, they get elected, whatever the case might be. So again, we've been measuring IQ for a long time, but over the past decade, emotional intelligence is the thing that's going to bring about those effective and efficient relationships that we're looking for. Any other questions around that at all? we're gonna have, Cassandra, can you pass out these EQ profiles? We're gonna let all of you, give you the opportunity to take 5 minutes to fill out an EQ profile. It's very simple.
Can we flunk this?
No, you need it's flunk-proof. It's flunk-proof. It's fail-proof.
Okay, then I'll take it.
Okay, so it's going to look at self-awareness. It's going to look at self-management. It's going to ask you anywhere between 7 and 10 questions. Social awareness, right? And so all you do, don't give it a lot of thought. You know, it's going to go from 0, meaning that you never do these things, to 4, you always do them. For example, my feelings are clear to me at any given moment. Either 0, they are never clear to me, or 4, they're always clear to me. And then you tally up in each section. I'll give you about 5 minutes or so to complete that. You want to see more? That's it. I knew. I felt it when I knew he did. Sorry.
Like I said, the 80s, he's back. I get off track sometimes, but my morals keep me straight.
Compass.
What you come up with?
Another minute or so? Probably should have brought some calculators, sounds like too.
They always put in this for.
I got extras, I got extras.
Okay.
We need a few more minutes.
Need a few more minutes? Okay.
Ms. Guinness required like 2 more.
I didn't flip it over.
You looking for a pen?
No, I'm looking for my glasses.
You need a pen? Here, use mine.
This is green. I didn't need glasses.
Oh, yours?
They go well with your hat.
Yeah, you look nice and all, Jeff.
Thank you, thank you.
Check with somebody that knows me. Yeah.
Because there's only one question.
But there are times where it's going up by 2, so I just.
Okay, that's
Yeah, I had something before.
Y'all just gonna give me. And sometimes people ask before they come. Y'all what I'm getting ready to say. Like, well, how about you just mess it? Yeah, I mean, it's hurtful. Mr. Riddle, you want to take a second crack at it?
I think I plugged it. This is a self-assessment, so I'm grading myself a lot harder.
Harder than others will probably grade you.
Right,
Oh, we
you
always
know,
do.
but
That's a self-awareness.
That's a self-awareness and emotional intelligence.
Put them down at the bottom. You know, whatever.
We see, we got probably one person still kind of working on there who had a good degree of emotional intelligence anyway. But let me ask you, did you find that kind of an interesting assessment?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Anybody want to volunteer a skill that they feel that they're strong, that they've tested out, I guess, or assessed out, that they may be strong in, or one that they said they may want to develop?
Can I ask a clarifying question? Since you're in.
Yeah.
Would this be different professionally and personally? Or would you say that they're both the same?
I think they're both the same.
Okay,
That's a
that's-
great question. That's a great question because actually, professionally, if people are going to be really honest with you, if there was a lack or area to be developed here, you'll hear the same thing from your colleagues as you might hear from those who are close to you. If you have a lack of patience, they'll tell you that at home, and for those who have the courage to tell you at work, they'll tell you at work too. Right? Usually if you're good at something that's on here, you're going to get complimented by your friends and family and so forth, and in your professional life it's going to be an attribute as well. But that's a great question.
Yeah, I think my lowest category was social skills. My highest category was emotional management.
Emotional management was your highest. Really?
Like that's top.
Well, now look, the way he sits back in the chair, he said lowest. Now his lowest was probably a 33. You know?
And that's what surprised me is for someone who is very self-aware.
Yes.
I didn't score higher than a 34 in any category.
Okay.
So I didn't score. I was functioning, so effective functioning in all categories. But my lowest, which was it barely made it, was social awareness.
Well, and as somebody who knows you on a professional level and somewhat on a person, I would say you're a very well balanced, socially, emotionally intelligent individual. So that doesn't, I'm not surprised, but I'm thinking that all of your scores were going to be pretty spot on there. But this is a good exercise to give yourself feedback that you may not be getting from other people. And again, if we look at it now, if we unpack it, if we look at it, how I think Teresa asked something about awareness here. This column here is what we see. Self-awareness, social awareness. This is what we see. Regulation now is just that. That's what we do with what we see. Okay? So you've got, let's take self-awareness. That has to do with your self-confidence, awareness of your emotional state, recognizing how my actions impact you, paying attention to how others influence my emotional state. I can't just say, well, that Lucy she makes me upset every time we talk. Well then, okay, I might see that, but now I get over here, so what am I doing about that? Lucy should not be able to get in my head, and make me upset.
Nightmares.
Exactly. There's some crazy things going on inside. Okay, no, you shouldn't be able to get inside my head and make me upset. So, from a regulation perspective, getting along well with others, handling conflict effectively, clearly expressing ideas and information, and using, as Brandon said earlier, around empathy, using sensitivity, etc., to manage interactions successfully. So that, again, we're under self-awareness. This is on a personal level. Self-awareness, now this is what I see in this column. This is what I do. So I see these things. Now, how well am I going to manage and regulate myself? Or am I going to just keep letting Lucy make me mad? Or Jeff, at a point we were talking about here, am I going to keep expressing how I feel in these board members meetings and not care about how it's impacting other people? I gotta get my point across. I gotta say what I gotta say. I've been here. I know everybody needs to listen to me. I need to be heard. And forget how my words land on people. You're right. You probably should clearly express your ideas, but not with the touch of a blacksmith. You can still get the same point across. And we'll get to that when Michael takes us through communication. So that's on a personal level. On a social level, right? Now, picking up the mood in a room. How many times have you seen someone present something or give a speech or make some points, and it's like they were so into themselves and what they had to say, and you're looking around, some people are rolling their eyes, others are asleep, and you're saying that person doesn't even see. It's almost as though they don't see how people are receiving. Like to move on or to slow down or whatever, or they may have made a comment they shouldn't. Hearing what others are going through, hearing what the other person is really saying. Again, on a social level. How many times someone has just walked, it's simple things. You're walking by in the hall, sometimes people won't even speak to you, but anyway, if they did speak to you, how you doing, Lucy? And before, I don't really mean it. You just like, good, I'm getting on to the next thing because I didn't really mean it. I didn't stop to say, how are you doing? Really? And just sit there and listen. We just did it because I said it because it was a nicety, right? Formality. But those who are really social aware, they get that. And then also, this is what they see. So they can pick up the mood in the room. They care about what others are going through. They hear what people are saying. They're good listeners. And then relationship management, these people, this is what they do. They're going to handle conflict effectively. Clearly expressing ideas and information. Again, Michael will get to that piece. And using sensitivity, again, in Brandon's words, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. And again, in order to do that, in order to walk about in Brandon's shoes, I got to first take mine off. That means I got to leave all my baggage, my preconceived notions aside, and actually step into his shoes and have empathy, not sympathy for him, but empathy. Oh, I feel sorry for what Brandon is going through. Oh, I wouldn't be the board chair to save my life. No. Let me stop and let me get in his shoes and try to understand where he's at. That's what empathy is. Again, here, this is what we see from a personal and social level, and then this is the hard part. Now, statistics will show that if I'm not self-aware, there's probably a 90% chance I won't be able to accomplish self-management, social awareness, or relationship management. And I'll say it to you this way. A person that's always confrontational, that individual probably is that way in every aspect of their life. I'm confrontational. It's going to be with my doctor, my priest, anybody. Any and mostly everybody, because I'm really not self-aware. I'm blinded to how in most business arenas we say, how are you showing up? I'm blinded to the impact that I have on you. I'm blinded to how my words are going to land on you. Now, you can still give, you can be self-aware and use some very stern language and approach. Someone might say, well, Rick, you know what? When you reprimanded Shar, you kind of shut her down. Well, the comments, I thought through that before I made those comments. And I wanted to, they intended to make you stop in your tracks and think about it. It wasn't like when someone says that you shut Shar down, okay, I know. I knew it had the propensity to do that. But so you couldn't tell me that I'm not self-aware. I was self-aware, and I knew the outcome. Have you ever? I mean, you probably now that you're saying that you probably.
Today I was running around the shop. I walked into my office. There's 20 emails of things I got to get out. I'm trying to go to the mayor's luncheon. I got this to do. I got that to do. I'm running around and I'm literally yelling at people, and they can see me just going, I don't know what to do. Get this done. Why isn't it done? And I was very self-aware of this.
See?
And I apologized to them later, it's just one of those things. It's just, in that moment, I had to let that out.
But now, what if they were self-aware and understood that you're the boss, you're coming in, you got a million things, you got a busy schedule, then if I'm self-aware working for you, I ought to be able to see that and meet you where you're at and say, hey, look, got something to talk to you about, but I think it can wait. And you're like, thank God, yeah, it can wait. So they would have to, if they were self-aware, they would have understood.
One of the guys yelled back at me.
Yeah. See, yeah.
So it's just, okay.
Right.
Stop yelling.
But see how important this is as it relates to your overall success. It's not your IQ or your degrees or all of that. The smartest guy in the room isn't leading the corporation. The smartest guy in the country isn't leading the country. It comes down to a lot of this. About successful relationships around influence, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Brandon, I'll go and resurrect a piece that you and I were talking about as it relates, for all of us, as it relates to the whole political realm, the political aspect of your jobs, as it relates to dealing internally with this administration and externally with the community. You want credibility, you got to have all of these things. Or the more self-aware, the more emotional intelligence you have, the more successful you're going to be by way of influence, by way of getting people aligned, and even by way of you understanding how to disagree without being disagreeable. But this is the stuff success is made of. Again, the smartest guy, the guy with the most degrees, et cetera, is not usually the guy or the gal in the corner office. But someone who has great common sense, some education, and they're mastering this. I want to treat people with dignity. I want to stop and see how people are feeling. I want to put myself in people's shoes. I'm concerned about how I come across to any and everybody. Doesn't mean I'm a pushover. It does not mean that. Because again, if I'm going to be stern with you, I know the potential outcomes. It might shut you down, it might make you mad, but I pray that it might make you think and reconsider. But it wasn't an accident most times. I want to be very self-aware in here. Okay? All right. And these are just some of the competencies around emotional intelligence, and we've talked about a lot of those. If you're in your self-management, it's going to have to be self-control. You can't just go off the handle in every meeting I'm in. Just can't go off the handle in front of children. Just can't go off the handle in front of the public. I may feel that way, but again, we're talking about managing, regulating ourselves. So again, self-control, achievement orientation, a positive outlook. You can't be the guy, oh man, here comes Rick. I mean, we were just having a parade and here comes the storm. That kind of person that just takes the wind out of you because you know it's going to be conflict. If again, self-management, let me regulate, let me turn that temperature up or down a bit, right? And then social awareness. Brandon said it earlier, and we're going to keep repeating this. Empathy, the ability to place yourself in somebody else's shoes and somebody else's circumstance. Not feel sorry for them, but let me place myself into their shoes because now I see their worldview. And then it's understanding. I may not agree with it, but I can say, well, this is what he or she has gone through. It gives me better context now as to where they're coming from. I can probably meet them halfway, even though I don't agree with them. I got an understanding. Yes, sir.
Just what you said, empathy versus sympathy, and I think that's super important in relationships, even on the board, right? So I'm not feeling sorry for individuals. The same in the educational context. We have to serve students with very unique needs, but we should be empathetic, not necessarily sympathetic.
Yes. And thank you for even leveraging that even more. Again, the kids don't want you to feel sorry for them. I mean, I come from the first ward. I had told you before, born on Market Street, McAllister, raised on McAllister Street, et cetera, et cetera. Don't feel sorry for me, but at least have some empathy to understand my worldview and what I've seen. Okay, and then you probably could meet me at a different place and space, just understanding that. I need to try to understand yours, but in order to have empathy, then I have to really be genuinely concerned, and I've got to hear. I've got to listen. Listen to what's not being said and see what's not being shown to me. Relationship management, again, this is all board level stuff here too. Brandon talked about influence. That wasn't lost on me. And he put it out there in a positive way, influence here, influence in the community. Coach and mentor. We're, as board members, instead of berating our staff and having administrators scared to come in here to talk to us and update us, I told you earlier, we need to be coaching and mentoring them. Conflict management. Let's agree to disagree. Let's hold each and every person accountable in order that we might get to teamwork. And then inspirational leadership. I'm going to inspire you to do your very best. Each other, and I'm going to inspire the administrators who work for us. Whereas they look and come to work every day and say, I'm glad Rick Harris is part of this board. I'm glad Shar is part of this board. I learned from them. Okay? These are the things here by way of relationship management that build lasting, meaningful relationships. And here we're still on EQ and leadership skills, improved effectiveness in these behaviors from EQ. You see it, building relationships, change management, confronting. If you're good at this, if you're good at the whole emotional intelligence thing, it doesn't hurt you to confront employee problems or board problems. Decisiveness, you're not all over hell's half acre. You can just make a decision and live with it, right? As a board or an individual, doing what it takes. Participative management, putting people at ease, straightforwardness, and again, when to have emotional intelligence doesn't mean that you just got to be perceived as the nice guy or gal. No, very straightforward. And then the last one is important, managing your work-life balance. Some people pour all of their time into the district. And I'm here if the district wouldn't survive without me, the board wouldn't survive without me. I tell you what one of my old pastors said when someone was saying, I've been running the women's program, the women's anniversary program for 25 years, and sister such and such can't do it, this, that, and the other. And he said, well, if you think you're the only one that can do it, then try dying. And I had to think about what he said. I said, well, that was a harsh comment. But then it made sense to me that when you're out of the picture, just like somebody was there before you got there, okay? In other words, you go get some balance, is what he was trying to say. We need volunteers, but you need more than just this, okay? So work-life balance is very, very, very important. And I'm leery of a person that says, well, I pour all my time into my work. I spend 15 hours a day in my work. Well, you need some balance. They're probably telling you that at home, or you're getting on folks' nerves in the district, or probably both. But you need some balance. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, and here, the bottom line impact, and I'm a bottom line kind of guy. I got an asterisk by those things because I knew Jeff McBride would be here today, and he might look at something like better manufacturing production and say that you guys aren't manufacturing things here today, so I put an asterisk. I knew Jeff McBride would be here. But no, I left those things on there with the asterisk because some of us have day jobs. Most of us, we have day jobs and things that we do that this might be applicable. But when you're talking about folks who have a high degree, leaders who have a high degree of emotional intelligence, we're talking about reduced turnover, better hiring decisions. We're talking about reduced staff grievances, lower training costs. We're talking about just more effective and efficient operations, which we should all hope for and be here. As a board, that's what you should demand of this superintendent and demand of this district, to not let taxpayer money go out of the window. and that we operate effectively and efficiently for the sake of our kids. So if there's a takeaway here, you just want to know that EQ has a. I'm not worried these days about this. That I hadn't worried about that in 15 years. I mean, Lucy, I probably couldn't get any smarter anyway. Let me focus on something I can impact. But no, I'm not worried about that. But this here, effective relationships and so forth, I'm always concerned about that. Okay? And then EQ becomes even more important. This is what I want you as leaders, strategic leaders. It becomes more important at higher levels within the organization. It doesn't get any higher than you guys as it relates to the school district. So EQ is extremely important for the folks in this room. Questions around that? These are just some thoughts around leadership style, right? Now this is kind of a busy slide, but when you think about it, I'll just kind of break it down. These are the leadership styles, various ones: coercive, authoritative, coaching, etc. This is when it's appropriate to use those, because again, we talked about flexing our style earlier, okay? And then these are the competencies along with each of those. This is the impact on climate, so we got to be very, very careful when we pull these levers and push these buttons. And then this is the objective for using each of those. Take coercive. The competencies: drive to achieve, emotional self-control. Impact on climate is very negative when you have a coercive leadership style. The objective: I need immediate compliance. This is when everything goes wrong or there's a serious issue. I need immediate compliance when it's appropriate in a crisis to kickstart a turnaround or with problem employees. It's appropriate there. But the problem is some people's style is always coercive. And look at the impact on climate. But there is a time and place for this. I mean, I would see it in corporate America all the time. I see it over across the street with the boards I'm on. If there's a serious issue that we need to turn around, do a 180-degree turn, it's this. It's like, guys, I'm not looking for consensus on this. This is what we have to do. This is what we will do. And let's do it. Okay? But again, so that style is appropriate here. As you start getting to these three middles, the authoritative, the affiliative, the democratic style, these are styles that you can use all the time. But look at when they're appropriate. Authoritative, it shows self-confidence, empathy, there's that word Brandon unpacked for us earlier, change catalyst. Impact on climate, most strongly positive. Highest rating of any of them. What is the objective? To mobilize others and to follow a vision. Set a vision, strategy, and to mobilize people. And when is it most appropriate? When change requires a new vision or when a clear direction is needed. But this is an important slide for you guys. Okay, coaching, let's go to that one. Developing others, empathy, there again, emotional self-awareness, very highly positive. What is the objective? To build strength for the future. So, and then when is it appropriate? To help an employee improve performance or develop long-term strength. So there'll be a time when you're using all of those. Shar, you were probably walking through the office, firing on half of these cylinders today as you look at that. And as you, especially as a business owner, you're looking at all of these when these were appropriate. And sometimes now we get them kind of crossed up. We're human. And, okay, I'm using this coercive style, and I should probably be down at Democratic. But that's why we have that there for you guys to take a look at it. Let's move into this quick assessment tool. This is called, how many of us have heard of this? Okay? We're going to give you guys the very, 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 let me say one more very, Michael. One more very, abbreviated look at this. And this is pretty much a management tool. How do we respond? as individuals? What is our initial response, our knee-jerk reaction, our gut, our core reaction in dealing with others? And let me break it down. This stands for, you got dominance for the D, influence for I, you got S, steadiness, and C for conscientious. Okay? If we look over here around DC, we see that these are task-focused people. And over here at IS, these are people-focused folks. Okay? And right up here, let me take dominance. It says dominance and priorities are about getting immediate results, taking action, challenging ourselves and others. We're motivated by, if I'm a D, power, authority, by competition, healthy competition, by winning and success. What are the D's fears? They fear loss of control. They fear taking advantage of. They fear being vulnerable, right? What you will notice in a D, self-confidence, directness, forcefulness, and risk-taking. Okay? There are limitations, though. Their lack of concern or perceived lack of concern for others, they're impatient, and they can appear to be insensitive. Okay? Because it's about the bottom line to those D's. Do we kind of get an idea what a D is? All right? Let's move to I. This is the influence person. This person expresses enthusiasm, taking action. They love collaboration. Do we have enough people at the table? Did we include Bill? Did we include Bob? Okay, they're motivated by social recognition, awards and rewards and things of that nature, group activities, etc. Their fears, they fear social rejection, disapproval, loss of influence, and even being ignored. What will you notice in those individuals? Charm, enthusiasm, optimism, and talkativeness. Okay? Their limitations are they're impulsive, they're disorganized, and their lack of follow-through. Oh, I'll get back with you on that, Brandon. This is a good idea. I'm glad we talked today. Oh, brother, that was real good. I'll follow up with you next week. 2022 comes and you still haven't heard from them. But again, let's get over to S. These are the steadiness folks. They're motivated by, well, if I can give their priorities. It's about giving support, maintaining stability. Okay? They're motivated by stable environments. I don't want things to really change. They want cooperation and they like opportunities to help. Their fears is loss of stability. They fear change. They fear offending others. What you will notice about those folks, though, is patience. They appear to be team players. They're calm approach. They're good listeners, and they show a great deal of humility. Their limitations is they can be overly accommodating. Their tendency to avoid change, and they're very indecisive. We just want to keep things the way they are. Okay? Conscientious, which their priorities, accuracy, maintaining stability, challenging assumptions. They're motivated by opportunities to use their expertise. This is the IT guy that's going to come in, or the guy, you ask the guy what time is it, he want to teach you how to build a watch. That's not what you ask for. But that's these people. They're motivated by the idea.
Just embarrass the crew.
We didn't mean that.
Yeah, I told him I just needed the screen on, and he wanted to take me behind here to look at all of the gadgets. I'm not here for that. Okay, so their fears are criticism, which I just did. Criticism being wrong. This is what you would notice: precision, analysis, skepticism, and they're fairly quiet. Their limitations: they can be overly critical, tendency to overanalyze, get into analysis paralysis. Now, lest we get accused of stereotyping people, now we all exhibit and can go all around here. Okay, let's just make that clear. Okay, but our innate, our gut reaction falls in one of those areas. Now, what I'm going to ask you guys to do is to, based on that, how many people think that they're a D?
It's not fair.
Do you want me to go first and say where I fall so that I can make
No,
it?
I said it's not fair. I've done the actual assessment. I'm equal parts D and I. So
like diversity and inclusion, D&I.
Dominance and influence.
Okay, I'm with
But
you.
equal parts in my lowest category is.
But you gotta choose one. You get to change, you gotta choose one though. And so are you heavily I or D?
My most dominant
That's what we're looking for.
is D.
Okay, well, D, you're D. And we're gonna keep you there. If you're most dominant, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for most dominant. But the D&I is real.
And that's what I'm saying. I've done the study. So,
Okay. So we're looking for most dominant.
most
today.
dominant based on the test.
Now you're looking like an S because you know the indecisiveness. You're gonna make me go back to D. But D is your most dominant. Any other D's?
I think I was a D.
Okay, because we're gonna ask you to we're gonna ask you to join forces here. Any I's?
I think I'm an I.
Okay, you running out of letters now. Somebody's gonna have to raise their hand.
Either an I or an S.
You got, okay, well, if you had to look at it, and I pressure test you, your dominant feature, would it be influence or steadiness? I had you, before I came here, I had you here. Actually, I had you over here, and I had you here.
Well, I'm not indecisive.
No, but I mean, giving
Yeah,
support,
some of those things
stability,
are like.
collaboration. Yeah, I would have you more strongly here, but I straddle between this and this because you're very conscientious too. So, but I tried to figure it all out before I came. So we're gonna put you, you're gonna be an S for today?
Sure.
Any other S's? We're running out of letters and people, okay? Rick, did you go?
I'm not sure where I fit.
I mean, we only have 4 letters. This isn't a whole alphabet.
All right, I'll do C.
You do C. Look out, see, I just pushed him over to C. Okay, so we got a C.
Too, Mr. Reynolds.
What?
I think so too.
I had you as a C.
Yeah, I think so too.
I had you as a C. Let me put you in that. Now, you're a shooter scholar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think I fall? S, maybe? Look how I look.
I think you fall into.
Easy, be careful.
I could see you. It also depends on context, but I feel like I would suit you.
You think I would suit me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Maybe DI? I'm too nice of a guy to be a D, though, don't you think? Yeah. Lucy, did you pick? Now you always take so long to go through. You're writing stuff down and calculating. Where do you fall? 3, 4 letters.
I think I'm under influence.
Okay, so
There's some things in there that aren't me, but I think more.
yeah, it's just in general. It's your dominant.
I think.
And Brandon, who taught this, it sounds like he knows it. It's your dominant. It's your dominant feature.
You've already had me figured out. What do you think I am?
Oh my goodness, Jeff. I mean,
We should have done what we think of each other, because
I think you're more of a. I say IS. I say I.
I'm 100,000%
Close.
S.
I had myself as an I.
I had you as an I. I just threw S there because of the collaboration thing, giving support. You're a strong eye. A strong eye. So this is what I'm going to do. Why don't we just swap chairs in here and then get into like groups? Okay, the D's sit together, the I's sit together, the S's and the C's. Okay, we're just going to take a couple minutes because this is.
You never said what you were.
I am a D and I.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I
thought you were the one who's dominant one.
D, but I am.
He told me I was wishy-washy.
But no, look how quick I answered. Look how quick I answered. Oh, you said you
witnessed this, right?
I said my dominant is D.
My dominant is D also.
But Brandon, he would still be talking about it if I would have let him. I had to cut him off.
Steve Brandon is not a D.
Yeah, he's not a D.
Hardcore I. I don't know how you got that.
I don't know how you got D. I had you as an I.
10 as an I.
I had you as an I.
Yeah.
But
They were close. Like literally, when you take took the test. It was one. It was
I'm
one.
gonna stand by
But down
myself.
my phone, it was based on a number score. It was DI.
Brother,
It was
he
one.
might be an S now. He might be that. What, I'm sorry,
I'm an S, so who's that? Me?
who
Oh,
else?
okay.
You-
No, we're us.
She was a late blooming S. And where were you?
I'm an S. I
C?
see, so I got.
Can you sit with us, Michael? And he's a C. I know you're not a pro. Well, you kind of a C, a chemist and.
Is he an S?
Pharmacy.
What is, what
Oh,
are
Mike was all over the spectrum. He can be whatever you need him to
The last time I took it, I was a high I.
be. Okay, look, now this is what we're gonna do, because I wanna make sure that we get everything. Yeah. Now, when we look at this and understand that these are the questions, what do you want other styles to know about you? What is the most difficult style to work with and why? And then what might we see when you are under stress? And how should other styles respond to you under stress? Now, for the sake of time, I can run through one of these and then we can ask questions or whatever if we need to, and you guys don't have to dialogue about it.
That's good.
Okay. As a D, I can tell you this. What I want people to know about me is that although I appear to be impatient, I do have patience for the things I feel deserve patience. I don't suffer fools well. I don't suffer nonsense very well. But things that deserve patience, I do have that patience. I am concerned about things, even though I said, well, let's hurry up and bottom line this thing for the sake of time. And I'm getting older too, so if you give me a long story, I might miss a lot of things. Cut right to the chase. Let's get there and let's go. If I say I understand and I got it and I nod with you, you can move to the next point. But again, that doesn't have anything to do with my lack of concern. We're on the part now that what do I want other styles to know about me as a D, right? Okay, that's what I would want you to know. What is the most difficult style for me to work with? It would probably be S.
Yes.
It would probably be S, followed by these folks. It's a lot of fluff around. I'm like, where's the meat on this plan? I know you got a vision and this, that, and the other. When am I going to see that timeline? Where's the report? Where's the facts and information to support what you're saying? So it would be these folks. Again, over here, we're talking about immediate results, taking action, getting things done, et cetera, et cetera. And here, it's like, do we have enough people? Should we bring another group in? And are we leaving somebody out? And that is a blind spot for me, for anybody that's a D. So you need S's around you to make sure you're not leaving somebody out or skipping steps. Yeah. So that would be the most difficult style for me to deal with. What might you see when I'm under stress? Impatience, intolerance, forthrightness, control freak. Let me do it myself, and then I'm sure the outcome. That sort of thing. That's what you'll see with me under stress. Don't want to keep repeating myself over and over. We got it? Let's go. So that's what you might see when I'm under stress. How should other styles respond to me when I'm under stress? Yell at me. Yeah, you can yell at me. But don't try to antagonize. I'm going to make you listen to me. You know what? No, you're not. You're not. Oh, I'm going to drag my feet and get you into this place here. No, you're not. So I would think once I'm under stress, meet me where I'm at. If there's something you got to communicate to me, if it's 10 bullets, get through it in 3. Give me the important pieces of it. If I ask questions, take me along with it. But if you give me 3 or 4 bullets, and I say I got it, trust that I got it. Some people will come in, well, I want to go through this whole sheet with you. And no, under stress, no, you're not. But again, and we're making light of it. When I have to have a meeting, I think about whoever I'm meeting with, and I try, just like I guess your styles, I'm looking at all of these styles. If I'm going in to talk to a D, I'm not going to go in there just because I got a 15-page presentation or a booklet and think I'm going to take you through all of those pages. I don't have the D's attention that long. The person I would have this person's attention that long, this person's attention that long, this person will probably try to sell me something in the midst of my own presentation. So I've got to get all of that together. But here, this person, the highlights, the main points, the bottom line, and now, do you have any questions? I've taken you through 3 of the 20 pages I have. I think there are salient things you want to hear. Now, you want me to stay on the clock and keep talking to you? I will. So that's what I'm thinking. This person here, I just know I need to come in and be at, how's the family? How's the dog? Did the parakeet ever live? I know it was sick. All of that, I've got to go through all of that with this person.
Yes,
And then this person is going to be all over Hell's Half Acre. When I walk out of the meeting, I'm going to have an action plan, because when I say what's next, it's fluff and impulsive. But so I've got the action plan for this person, even though they don't have one. Yes, Sean.
So can you be S in one situation and a D at home, or
Yes.
a D at work, or
Yes. Yes and yes. You're absolutely correct.
Rick, I want to interrupt, because you and I play together so often. And he will call himself up, talking about being self-aware. We're in the middle of a conversation, and he is hammering a client or me or what we're doing, and he's deep. He's deep. And then suddenly he'll say, and you know what? I just passed a guy who was having an ice cream. I think I'll have an ice cream. And you notice how that information has nothing to do with anything we're saying. So he says, but I'm letting you know that I know that it just slipped out of my D. So let's go back to this. He'll fight himself through it out loud. And then he'll come back to it. So you don't have to own any one of them. You don't have to be more. It's being self-aware. And in our conversations, which can go quite long, both of us will play the advocate of one of these. Well, we have to be very analytical. What do we think, in this case, our clients are going to say, and what do you think they're going to need? And he'll shut me down more often than not and hang on his D and say, we got to get to the point, and I'm thinking about a presentation that's 5 bullet points, no more in this. So how do we get to it? And that's communication style based on personality style. So he's aware of it, and he uses those tools as he's doing this and conversations one-on-one with his people he's coaching.
It's the most, thank you, Michael, and it's the most important thing that you can do by way of relationship. So often we don't even know who we are and how we show up, right? And so we don't know from an emotional intelligence perspective how we're landing on people. So we really don't stop to think about who we're going to meet with and where they fall in this. And if I'm trying to get you to yes, or if I'm trying to get you to understand a point I'm making, the better I understand where I'm at and where you're at by way of emotional intelligence, the easier it's going to be to get you there. Again, but we get so close. Again, I've got my binder. I've stayed up all night putting this together, and I'm going to take Teresa through all of this without me looking to see where she at on that. And chances are it's a 50-50 proposition, or in this case, it might be 25% chance of success. So when I coming in here tonight, I already went through, in my mind, all of you decide where I thought you were at, and I don't think I was off at all. I was off on you, Brandon, because I had you at I, more I, but I could see the D too. I could see it.
I was asking because you know how you do it and they score you. It was
Yeah.
really a 1 point difference. It wasn't.
Yeah. So no. If you use this for anything, think about your meetings with people. What you're trying to, even if it's your spouses or whatever, what are you trying to accomplish and who are you dealing with? And then that will help you. These people, conscientious, let them know, let them know, they're going to want to know the nuances. We're compliant. Analytical, here's the facts, here's the data. Let me give you all the spreadsheets up front. Look through the presentation. Let you get real comfortable with accuracy. at accuracy and knowing that I crossed every T, dotted every I, because this person, the devil's in the details, that's where this person is going to be. These are your finance people, right? These could be your IT people. You want your CFO here. You want your IT people here. You want your safety people here. So none of these are bad. I don't want my safety people up here. Okay, I don't want my compliance people up here.
I'm thinking about safety police. I think they're dominant.
Yeah.
So-
Now those police, yes. I mean, but general like machine safety, and I like at your place. You want those people compliant. Those who don't want slipshod methods, those who are not going to cut corners, that kind of thing. But yeah, the safety police, they would be here. You're down, your police one, they would be here. Does that make sense? So then as you dealing here, we're talking about how to get people from their point of view to yours. And at the break, Jeff, you were saying sometimes we've got to help bring people along. It's not possible to bring everybody along, but if there's a personality or personalities on the board, and I want them to understand a point of view, let me understand where they are here. And then let me meet them where they are. Make sense? It will.
All I know is that your parakeet Coco had a really amazing surgery.
The influence person. And then I'm saying, well, where's the doggone spreadsheet I asked you for? And what does this have to do with the price of teacher? Yeah, that sort of thing. But yeah, how's the family? Yeah, did you ever get that desk built? And I'm looking at my watch like, oh my goodness.
That's funny.
All right, so we hurried up and got through that. Michael, can you guys give us a few more minutes? We're almost done.
Can I ask can we get I know we have a deck, but can I just pull that out and send it to the board?
Oh.
Because I think what's important is, as we went through the DISC and the other assessment, for me, it's important to know where I'm at and where other people are at, so I can communicate more effectively with them. But I also think with the other assessment, it's what am I working on?
Yeah.
To be a better team member, right?
I like
so,
that.
Do you want me just to take that and send it, or do you want to send it?
No, if you got it, you take it and send it. And one thing that you guys might do by way of just fun is just put the initials, the people's dominant stuff, but put the initials of people, right there, so that everybody kind of remembers where people said it down. To Charlotte's point, though, understanding that you can operate through the full wheel. We're just talking about your impulsive, dominant style, right?
Depends on which hat I'm wearing.
Yeah, and when you get very good, you'll easily go from D to I to C to S, and it's called style flexing, right?
And they talk about stresses, right? It's because sometimes we have a position which requires us to perform consistently in an area that's not our dominant style. So if I work in auditing, and I have to be a C consistently, but as Rick says, I'm an I. I feel a lot of tension, and that would be a stress.
You can't stay there comfortably for a long period of time. I mean, it's like diving underwater without oxygen. You can only go so long before you have to come up air, but you're absolutely correct.
And that's when you blend these two, right? So it's not just one section, but then you say, I have to be this certain way to get the job done, or I have to be this way to be a team member. So you blend all this. These are not standalone. You've got to utilize everything there. So this are some of the things that we were talking about earlier, and debate and dialogue. So you've got the play against each other on the dialogue side. This is looking for mutual understanding. And over here is, I know what I want to say, and I'm going to get that across. So when you go for it, we say, on a dialogue, I'm going to listen to learn. Take a shot at it. Or I can be in there like a selfie. So I listen to learn, or I'm listening so that I know when to jump in and have the argument in favor of me. So this is in favor of me. I know what I want to say, and I know what I want to get across. And you can still have that on this side, but I listen for strengths. Over here, I listen for weaknesses and entry points. So I can affirm and learn what is your point of view, and then I can maybe understand how we can come together. So I'm speaking for myself here, and I speak for others, and I'm thinking about the assumptions that we make on this side. Ask questions to clarify. I ask questions here to control the conversation. So here, I'm letting you complete the thought. And you know when you talk to someone and they just walk right over your comments. So this one, so I'm listening, I'm interrupting because I want to change the subject or get out of something uncomfortable or make sure that I have my point across. So these are the differences here. And we'll talk about respecting feelings. We talked about that in terms of civility and then using silence. I want to extend the conversation here. I want to be over because I already know the answer. This is just a breakdown of it. When you look at this, this is an older standard model. From here, when we communicate, we want to be, I won't go through all of this. You know, if it's something, you can look at it further, but clear in what we're trying to say. Concise. Make it short, to the point. Concrete. I want firm examples of what we're trying to do, and it should be factual as much as possible. You know, and that a completeness will give you a whole picture of what we're trying to do. So you combine all of these steps with what we were saying before about civility, bringing forward the conversation, debate versus dialogue, your style, and bring it through complete and coherent. Does it make sense? Can we have this idea fully formed? And courteous, so it goes back to our civility. We can spend 2 hours on this, on each of these models. But I want to make sure that we...
But go back to that last one real quick. And one of the killers here is concise, concrete, and correct. When you're communicating even as a board. Nothing is more frustrating than have somebody say, I got a question. Or they pipe up and say something, and they ramble on for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then you're trying to ascertain in your mind, now was that a comment, a question, a disclaimer, a preamble? I mean, what exactly are we addressing? So you'll find that in your professional and even in your personal life. So again, these are very, very important. And to Michael's point, concrete and correct, factual, all of that has to be there in order for this to exist. Thank you.
We're going to break this down in active listening with some tools. Again, just another diagram to guide you along the way. And yes, these work at home as well. I'm still working on them. It's only been 50 some odd years, but you want to hear the content, hold judgment while you listen, actively engage, and body language is very important. We threw this on the side here because we wanted to call that out. The other pieces we really have a lot on in some of the other sections, but what you do and how you engage is extremely important to the listener. And you know, I've got a family working at home in their own little corners, so when you see that and someone comes in and they have a question, I try to stop what I'm doing and engage with them. And just as you would at work, if you keep typing, you're dismissing that person and maybe missing something that could be very helpful or something you really need to know about. So that body language and engaging with the person with eye contact, not just your cell phone, your expressions, how you engage with them, and your tone and your pitch of voice. Yes, that sounds real interesting. Thank you, Jeff. Or, really, tell me more about that. So we have some tools we want to do along those lines. I put this down here because now you have a lot of your meetings on Zoom, Teams, WebEx, whatever they're called. This still holds true. If your camera is off to the side, we get that, but if you're not on camera or how you're on camera, all of that observed body language adds to your communication style. So you're signaling interest, you're reflecting, and you're questioning. So Rick said on that one individual, when they came in and we're not sure what they were even talking about, this is where you can question them. What are we trying to do? Can we boil it down? How can we help you? Let me summarize. Let me ensure that we're hearing the content correctly. Our levels of listening can be broken down in this way. As you go through and you're listening to me, as you're listening to the radio, as you're listening to a family member, when you're at work, you're juggling a lot of facts, you're having all these thoughts go through your head, and you say, okay, what do I have to do? What do I break down? If you're in debate or dialogue, you shift. If I'm looking for a fact to hold against someone, you're going to jump on that person. If I'm looking for facts to understand where they're coming from, you're actively listening. That's what we're looking for. You're not judging. You're not trying to problem solve in the moment. You want to be able to question and pull out, what are we trying to do? Let me ask you some more questions. Internal chatter. Oh, the Cubs playing today? No, they're done, right? Okay. They were done, what, a couple months ago? So that internal chatter, milk, bread, eggs, yeah, I was listening. So those are the things that we want to look at. When we're focused on the other person, you're concentrating and you're engaging with them. You're trying to figure out, what are they saying underneath? What's the question behind the question? If you ask that question, people go, well, here's what we're trying to do. Okay, well, why didn't you say that in the first place? Because I really want to know why you came into the office. I really do. So what do they need? What's their feelings? What are their expressions? What are their emotions when they're asking that question? You were in a stressful situation. You have 15 things to get done. Even if Rick said, if I have 5 things that I need you to do, can I help you do things? I have 5 things. Can they wait? How can I help you? And suddenly it's a partnership. And this person's level of excitement hopefully drops and allows you to focus. So understand the intent. How are they coming to you? What does it mean? When we talk about the board, where are they coming from? And it's okay to ask that question. So when you're doing this, active listening techniques, minimal encouragement. Okay, yes, I'm engaging. Okay, yes, all right, all right. That's minimal encouragement, but we're in the conversation. Paraphrasing. So what you're saying is that she came to you and we don't have the budget? Exactly. Okay. You seem really frustrated by that, emotional labeling. I'm not agreeing or disagreeing, but you seem frustrated. What I'm hearing you say is, you felt like we had that done. Mirror. That's the reflection of what they're doing. When they say, she doesn't have the budget ready, the budget, which part, the whole thing, I'm trying to engage in the conversation with what they said last, so that we can keep it going and asking open-ended questions. Did she tell you she's not going to have it by Tuesday? Is it closed? Yes, no. We want it open-ended. How are we going to do that? What do you think we should do next? What else did they say? Let's keep it going. And, unlike what we're doing here at the end of the presentation, effective pause, right? When you're dialogue versus debate, you take advantage when you're debating of that pause. When you're in dialogue, you wait. Maybe even say, take a breath. What else do we need? Because you seem really stressed about this. I know. And you've been in those conversations. That's actively listening to get where we need to be. And you can still have your agenda, but you want to prepare it so it's a conversation and a dialogue to get where we need to be as a district.
Let's go all the way. We're not going to do that. Let's go all the way to crucial conversation, because they're trying to go.
So I'm a good active listener for about the first hour and a half. At 2 hours, 3 hours into a meeting or something, I've lost it. So what can I do to haul myself back?
Well, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. First of all, whoever you're meeting with, they need to understand that about you. Really, they need to understand that about you. Second, make all of your contributions early on. Somebody else will have to carry the torch, later. But they need to be very aware of who you are, how you show up, and you're going to make a meaningful contribution early on. And after that hour and a half, it goes down. And if it's a one-on-one meeting, and if you can control it, make the meeting for a half hour, 45 minutes. Yeah. You know, some
And
people
they
just,
go on for 3 hours.
Yes.
Like,
and I see, I'll be quite frank, I see some of the school board meetings by way of effectiveness and efficiency, there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done. I mean, it's 4 hours and 3 and 4, we're rehashing issues, things that should have been talked about at the board level and solved, and it's drug all out here, and it's just too long to go on. And it's, at some point, I think that they lose their efficiency after a couple hours, at best. So, again, the best way to do it, just like, again, we call ourselves teams, sports teams, what we would always do on Monday is watch film. Watch film of the rest of the matches, watch film of the football game. There's a lot to see when you're watching it on film. And then you'll get to a place where we should have cut it off after that. Because it's no good. It's destructive at that point. You know, so to come out and say, oh, our school board meeting lasts 4 hours, and that's inefficiency and effectiveness. So that's what I say about that. I couldn't sit it. I don't think I could do it. You know, just a regular meeting that long. Yes.
Well, number one, you cram the agenda and the presentations are so long, and then outside of the board members making comments, and the comments that's being made sometimes to me don't amount to anything, and then another person may follow up behind that comment with another comment, and another person behind, and that's what keeps the board meeting so long. But at the same time, I go back to Brandon as our board president. He controls that. He controls the agenda, and he also controls, he's got the gavel to also control who's talking and who ain't talking.
Well, and
I'm saying that because I'm on the township board, and the president styles are totally different.
And it's different if it's a stylistic thing or it's a duty or responsibilities thing. Their duties and responsibilities as board president or chair should be the same. Their styles might be different. Okay, so if I'm supposed to, as a chair, I do control who's on the floor, who's speaking, how long we're going to speak, when we're going to move on, what's inappropriate, what's out of context. You know, I call balls and strikes, really. I can control that. So first, I think we can talk about effective meetings at some point in time, but first you control the agenda. You don't want to pack the agenda with too many things that's going to take us beyond 2 hours. That's the first thing. Second thing is, you know, after you get to your audience time and all of that, you know, we don't need to I don't have to build on everything somebody else says. If Lucy makes a point, amen. I don't have to, well, now let me expound, and let me expound, and yeah, I think this and that. I mean, it's not efficient and it's not effective. Anything over 2 hours for a business meeting, I think is overkill.
Well, I'm just saying that's why I think we stay in that 3 hours. You made a comment earlier. You on the visitor board, but you stay in your lane. You're not telling nobody how they need to cut your heart open. You ain't telling nobody what.
No.
None of that. You're doing what you're supposed to do as a board member.
Yep.
And sometimes I think that happens a lot in our meetings.
And that's why this team dynamic thing is important, where we can keep each other honest on that. You know, I got to be able to look at Michael's got to be able to look at me and say, Rick, you're dragging the meetings out, man, or you got to, you know, we get the point, or whatever. But and it's again, it's stylistic things. Some people just feel like, I mean, I don't know, you can make a great point, everybody got it, and then, well, I got to elaborate on that point too. Well, I got something to say. Well, I need to ramble on, and then there's dialogue. I mean, it's a lot of that stuff I would expect if you're my board, you should have worked all that out before game time. This isn't the time to look at X's and O's while you're sitting up there. This is game time now. So, but first and foremost, get a palatable agenda. where you can work through that in a couple hours. Sometimes the agenda can be so packed that it's gonna take you 3 or 4 hours. Anything over 2 hours is really unacceptable. Businesses, major corporations, their board meetings aren't that long.
But we also have to remember when we keep asking for presentations on this and this,
Bingo.
and we have to go back and revisit things that we
Yes.
did on 6 months ago.
Yes.
You pack your own agenda.
Yes.
So, I mean, and so the administration is just complying with the request, which will take our meetings a lot longer also.
And you've got to ask too, is that information best just emailed to us and we read it on our own? Because again, we talked about this in goal setting. If you start saying, I want to see a lot of stuff, then you're going to spend all people's time going through a bunch of stuff. And I think the most disrespectful thing you can do to your audience and so forth is just to waste their time for your own purpose. That's the most disrespectful thing you can do to an audience. So, it's something, it's very, very valid point and something to think about. Actually, you'll get a new group of people, more people involved if the school board meetings were, hour and a half, 2 hours long.
And then, you say it's a board chair issue. All they say is I have to be supported in the decisions that I make.
Yep.
It's because everybody says you can end time until Brandon tries to end time. And then I got another question. I want to get my last point. So it applies for everybody except for whoever the person is talking.
Let me jump in because Rick and I made some decisions here on the fly. He just said, you want to take this, you want to take this, what can we cut out? Your team has to look like that. When we're presenting, particularly we do a lot of things online. Rick will be speaking and I'll say, mention culture or mention what we just did in the training before. And Rick will look at his phone while looking at his screen, while looking at his camera and go, and we just did this in the training. So you have each other's back on this. This is where your team gets stronger. He'll say, hey, you can look at my texts from him and more often than not, they get it, move on. That's his B coming out with a hammer on my noggin. And I'm not offended by it. What we can't see sometimes is how people are reacting on, the Brady Bunch screens.
Yeah.
So that's really difficult. And even in meetings where people are looking at their notes and doing other things, we just say, you know what, it looks like everyone gets it, and I'm helping Rick out. But can we move on, everybody? And I'm not being rude to Rick. You guys have to have that confidence in
So then it's not rude to say,
he doesn't
No.
spend all the time.
If you checked his text, he just met us with a major client, 11 session workshops, 2.5 hours apiece, and I was the wing person. I introduced myself as the company owner and this, that. He led the conversations, and now they were CEO level and one level down. So these were people who did a lot of D's and this, that, and the other. But no, I'm texting them and we're doing it on Zoom. And they get the point. Or move to the next slide or whatever. And he's just talking. He just goes through.
In the same vein, I get great job, great point.
In real time.
We're doing the text back and forth. So use the technology for yourself. So as a team, support each other.
Just remember it's for you.
Right. And so, but then the other thing, like why Michael was up here, did you see and I said, we're gonna skip that because we got some listening exercises for you guys to do. But we'll come back another time. I said, we're gonna skip through all of those and go right to this. Didn't hurt his feelings, matter of fact, I didn't tell him to sit down. He was like, okay, you take this. But it should be transparent to you guys.
Right. We've been talking about this as a board for years. I was looking back, I've got board protocols here, and it's been an issue every time we have a meeting. And one of the protocols back in June of 2019 said that we were going to set times on board agenda items and adhere to them.
Bingo.
And that applies both, I think it has to apply not only to the presenters, but to us as a board. Otherwise, we're never going to get these meetings short. We keep talking about it, but we'll never do it until we set times. And then we have something to call us to. We had 10 minutes for this presentation, and now we're into 15, and now we're into 20. Or board members are continuing to talk on this item. We're going to be here all night.
No, and that is why, again, this is your workshop. This is your time. We went over, I asked your permission for 10 or so more minutes. Can I just ask your permission. I can't just take that from you. And as board members, you gotta keep, I say that the responsibility rests here. It does, because there's a packed agenda, and then I got a comment, and it's like, well, don't you guys know enough about this to not have so many comments and questions? Yes.
I think the one thing that I've seen with this board, because I've been here 5 years, in the past 2 years, we've started to do a lot of self-development. You know, you've been with us 2 or 3 times already like this. In my first 2 years, we just really did more with IASB. And so what I do know is this board, including our board president, is really big on self-development. And somebody said, well, how do we get better? By trust, I think it was earlier, the question. It's just by continual development. And so like when you're getting ready to go through active listening, communication, I think for all of us, like that's a session. Like we can't just gloss over that and rush Mike through it because we all need it, including myself. I just took a workshop last Monday on it. So if the board is committed to holding each other accountable, supporting each other, being transparent, but also putting the time in to develop, then we're just going to become a stronger, more unified board that has some coherency. Just as my district leadership team comes. Mr. Harris comes to my team, we meet once a month, we carve out time. When we did that team thing, I was looking at where my team was. I mean, from year 1 to year 5, it's completely different. But if you don't take that time for development, we're not going to grow. And so I do want to point out that our board president has been very, and I'm not just saying that because Brandon's here.
No,
it's because he's very progressive and says, the board wants workshops. They want to do this. They want to dive into things. And I mean, that's the fun part of it, right?
Yep. And to that point, we'll save this whole communication exercise, this crucial conversation. We're going to save all of this for next time. But what I do want you to get out of this is just some sort of reflection. You know, as it relates to this session today, you know, what would you do different as it relates to listening, as it relates to questioning, as it relates to responding? There's a whole probably hour and a half we can do on just active listening exercises, crucial conversations. But to Teresa's point, we did not want to rush through that. We'll get you when you're fresh, and that'll be its own module on just effective communication. It's going to help you up there, and it's going to help you here. Okay? Any questions? That's it for us. Any questions?
Don't go no farther and start gonna lose you after 2 hours.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, but you know, here I am, the printer in me is like, you don't have the word do in there, but you read do.
Oh, yeah. What do you do there?
And listening was misspelled.
And listening was misspelled.
Not misspelled.
We have, they're very observant on presentations.
And see, but this is, did you spell it right? Well, you know what? Let me just tell you something, Sean. Let me tell you both something. That was a test. So you know, if we wanted to see if you caught it. And then the second thing was, oh, I don't make a mistake. You guys are going to think we're perfect. God forbid. God forbid. No. Thank you.
Well, as always, thank you, Mr. Harris. It looks like, well, as we do, superintendent will be reaching out to schedule that second one is because one of the things when we talk about follow through is we're going to come back. And we do have to make time for it. I'm going to work very hard to make sure that the entire board is here for the next session. We're paying money, taxpayer money, in order to go through this training. It's very important that we all be here and be present and be engaged. As the superintendent stated, it makes us better as a team. So with that, I would like to thank Mr. Harris and Mike for attending. And then if I can have a motion to adjourn. Motion by Ms. Wozniak, second by Ms. Gonzalez. All in favor, signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Uh,